you know, I was actually going to wrap all of the walls, you know, to hang mounts, because now I'm already out of space.
Scout, I mean, you can get lucky and just go sit in a spot and one walk through, but I mean, a lot of times you kind of have to put the odds in your favor. You got to find where there's big deer. And so this year, I mean, the buck I shot, I don't know, maybe high 140s. I mean, wasn't
my biggest buck.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, the struggle's real, you know, and which is why you see such a huge population of high fence ranches that have come in and seen my camera, and I have physically watched them go a different route around that camera. Yeah, I guess I was probably 17 for my first bow kill, which was that one I was showing y'all earlier, that 8-point from Oklahoma. I could have shot under him. I could have led too far. Could have shot him in the butt. I mean, like anything could have happened. I mean, it just I got lucky. You know,
I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Yeah, it's the true definition of target panic.
There's my target and I'm panicking.
There's my target. I'm panicking and I'm having to rush a shot that I'm not really prepared to take.
Sponsored by Core. Not really though. All right, we just got through with the Roach Motel. We are battling a little bit of sleep issue from little girls knocking on the door in the middle of the night, but not in a creepy way, I guess. But yeah, we're heading to Shadow on Jones' house, about 15 minutes away. First, we're gonna grab some coffee, and then meet up with them and shoot another pod. So let's do it.
You know, I was actually going to wrap all of the walls, you know, to hang mounts, because now I'm already out of space. You know, I've got some in the living room, I've got some upstairs, I've got some out in the shed. I've still got 8 mounts, the taxidermist that I haven't picked up yet. So it's yeah, so it's kind of a I'm just kind of, because I wanted to, like I say, I wanted to try to wrap the whole thing, but then it kind of gets too much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's probably I mean, he's kind of pencil horn, but that's probably the like longest G2s of any buck. He had 17-inch G2s.
Where's that buck from?
San Saba.
That buck, look at the form on it. Look how small that form is.
Oh, I know.
It's tiny.
Dude, well, part of it, that's what makes them look so big.
Yeah.
Because they're little deer there. They're not, you know, they don't have very big bodies.
Looks like a hill country deer with like huge, like freaking these like.
Well, and it kind of, I mean, you know, San Saba to us, you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar where exactly where that's at, but that's kind of starting into the hill country.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, you know, the deer bodies are a little bit smaller there, which makes the racks look so much bigger. Because, I mean, he only scored like 135 or 136 or something. Yeah. This is an 8-pointer, and he scored right at 150. But you can see he doesn't have that kind of time, length, and frame, but he's got a lot more mass.
So when you see people on Facebook saying I shot 158, that's what it has to look like to be 150-inch 8-point. I don't think people know what that actually takes. Like, that is a monster, and it's in the 130s. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was like 136 or something like that. When he walked out, when I first saw him from a long ways away, I'm like, oh my God.
That's a moose.
Giant, you know? And, but you're comparing him to other body-sized deer. Like, I mean, these are Kansas. This is Kansas. You can just tell the mass. Of course, the racks aren't massive, but.
God, he looks bigger than that.
I mean, he's got good mass, and a lot of times, just not a lot of time length, you know? But carried mass. So what's crazy, so this deer, I shot him in Tishman Hill.
Oh, that's a nice buck.
Yeah.
Did you score that one?
No, but I mean, I'm guessing probably 120, high 120 maybe.
So he's pretty symmetrical. Like probably, well, that one eye guard's longer, but yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have mohawks like that usually?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Really?
Yeah, I shot that on the King Ranch a few years ago. These are all Collin County sheds, some younger deer.
God, those are mean little looking suckers. I Are those like collared peccary? Is that what they're called? Peccary?
Peccary or something like that.
Those are cool.
And they stink so bad. So like if you get them mounted, they have to go and take these glands out of their back. Because dude, when you walk up on them, it's the worst smell ever. And it's kind of a defense mechanism for them too. And so yeah, you have to get all that taken out. But
I would shoot that buck so hard.
so I've got his left side shed, and we had agreed to pass on him. And so I found his shed after that season. We were gonna pass because just the frame on him, we're like, he's got potential to be something special. And so I found his left side shed, and there was skull broke off in the pedicle, and so we're kind of like, let's be interesting to see what he grows back like. And he grew back all deformed, just straight up. So it wasn't even legal because now he doesn't have an inside spread of 13 inches. Oh, wow. And so, but the neighbor shot him. So
despite the law,
some old guy, he tried to shoot me one time.
Oh my
and
God.
So some old dude, he's like, I don't know, late 70s, and uses a crossbow, and his feeder's at like 80 yards. And I was like, just because it shoots that far doesn't mean you should do it. So we would see these little like 1.5-year-old spikes and nubbin bucks with bolts sticking out of them, walking around all the time. I mean, dude, this guy wounded everything. And so he was after that one. Anyway, so he shoots it, and one of my buddies on the lease, this was in the same Farmsville lease, and he saw him walking down the creek, looking down the creek, and he's like, obviously messed up his hunting in. He's like, you guys looking for something? And he goes, yeah, I shot a buck, and he met Randy outside, and he's like, well, I've been sitting here, I didn't see anything come by, and so, but he never did really say. And then the next year we found his shed. He was probably about 800 yards into our property down by a little ravine, and we found his shed, and so I mean, I've got hundreds and hundreds of pictures of him. He was just he was a really, really cool deer. I saw him that year because he was a little bit younger, and we were like, dude, this sucker's gonna be special. And so we passed on him, and I ended up finding this shed right here. I've got it somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Maybe on the shed, but.
Do you have any replicas of this? Is there just one original?
In Shields.
Okay.
Yeah, and Shields has.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Shields has the replica, and then the taxidermist has a replica of it.
That is so cool.
Last year, and he was actually the youngest buck I've ever shot. He was a 4-year-old, and I wasn't gonna shoot him. I wasn't gonna, because typically I'm like, man, I want to shoot a more mature deer. Yeah. But I had an ungodly amount of hunters hunt next to me, and so I was like,
I'll take it.
I kind of took it as one of those, if I don't take the opportunity, someone else is going to.
Yeah.
And because it's one of those deals where you're going, man, 2 more years, you can be looking at close to a 200-inch deer, especially with the amount of bone they put on. But he wasn't going to make it that long.
Yeah.
He was coming around all the time. A lot of people were seeing him all up and down the creek. Well, so I was gonna get it mounted, but like everything was like all jacked up, and I was like, I'm not paying for form work where everyone goes, man, the taxidermist screwed him up. So I was like, it'd be better for me to do a Euro so people can actually see the skull, how it's damaged. Yeah, but yeah, he had broke his nose. God, yeah, he had a massive gash like in the top there. Yeah. 160 class. That one was Illinois. He was 170s. Now these 3 here were all shot in high fence, so I've never even posted those. Those don't count.
Welcome to the Hunter's Advantage podcast, where a group of budget-minded hunters scour the woods for whitetail bucks and whatever other big game is in season. Tune in each week to hear the hilarious public and private land hunting stories and mistake-filled lessons learned. We believe that every hunt brings us closer to God and that we exist to share the good news. And now, your hosts, Christian Babcock and Jake Gaylord.
Listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonalimbmfg.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today, we're on our North Texas podcast tour. So stop number 2 with Chad Allen Jones. Thanks for jumping on the podcast with us, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, fellas. I'm glad to have y'all at the house.
Yeah.
Finally put faces with names.
Yeah.
And I know we've followed each other for a long time, just haven't physically caught up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for opening your home to us. It's awesome. And this room is one of my dreams to have something like this. This is awesome. All you got to do.
We got an extra bedroom. You guys just move in.
Don't tempt me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all you got to do is have your wife break the garage door a couple times, and then you're good.
Yeah. There's probably better routes. There's probably better routes for that conversion.
Well, for people that don't know you too, you are the CEO of Getting Banned on all social media, so they've probably seen one of your 20 accounts over the years.
Yeah. I'm pretty successful at getting banned off of social media accounts.
So you
have a knack for it.
On your 10th TikTok account, you just decided, I'm going to keep posting the same content. If they ban me, I'll just do another account. Is that how you usually do it?
The funny part is I actually try to focus on not posting anything that's ever gotten flagged before, but the most random stuff will get banned or restricted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I literally had posted a picture. I had caught a crappie, and I was posting a video of catching the crappie and holding it up, and it got banned for animal cruelty. And I was like, this is the stupidest app on the planet.
It's a Chinese man.
Yeah, and so it's kind of one of those things to where I'm kind of just to the point of giving up on it. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no hope for me in that app anymore. I don't think.
I saw that. I don't know what their names are. It starts with an F. They're a big hat apparel company on Instagram. They had like 600,000 followers, outdoor company, and they lost their account on Instagram the other day.
Oh yeah,
It's like a waterfowl thing.
Yeah, I don't know what their
I
name
remember
was.
seeing something like that because a lot of people were trying to get them to protest to get the account back. Dude, it's gotten crazy. It's gotten crazy. I mean, because right now, after I started a whole new, I guess what was that 2 years ago? I was going to shoot tag with y'all.
Yeah.
So had to start a whole new Instagram account because I'd gotten permanently banned. A whole new Facebook account because I'd gotten permanently banned. And, and at the time I had sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of hard to achieve your obligations with sponsors of, so many posts and social media interaction when you don't have social media accounts anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I'm trying to follow them back and explain to them what's going on. And they're thinking it's a fake account because they're like, why is this dude, starting at zero? And so anyway, it's been a mess, but yeah. So, I've somehow weaved my way back into the, I guess the restricted list because, my Facebook account, it kind of took off some viral videos and got a pretty good following. And, most of my posts, would get, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of views. Now I'll post one and I might get lucky to get 1,000. And I'm like, how does that even happen other than they're shadow banning and restricting it? And it's just frustrating because the stuff that I see posted and I'm like, and I'm not even posting kill shots. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was like, I kind of get it if they're seeing an animal get hurt or something. But I mean, these are just like posts of me like holding a deer or holding a fish or, you know, pranks or something like that. And it's just kind of frustrating of the things that I actually see on there that don't get restricted.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna restrict my accounts for just something so minor in my mind. But
it's funny. We
it's the world we live in.
have 53,000 followers on Facebook, and we'll post a static, like just a link to the podcast and then a description, and it won't get a single like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why do I have all these followers that I like will not get a like, not a single one.
So it's funny you said that because the thing is, I'll post something, you know, and I don't know, I've got same deal. I think I'm somewhere around 57,000 followers on Facebook. I've never purchased any followers or anything like that. Now, I'm sure a lot of them are fake accounts and bots. But what's weird is, you know, I've got probably just 1,400 friends, like actual friends on there outside of the followers. And I'll post something, and sometimes I might get like 10 likes on it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, so not even my friends like this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going, either they're not seeing it or people just really don't like what I'm posting. One of the two.
Probably because you're not shaking your butt or you're like,
that's true. That's true. I'm going about this all wrong. That's what it is.
That's awesome. And so I know we've had you on the podcast a couple of times. I think this is the first time we've had you on with Jake. So I'd like to start, I think it'd be pretty interesting for most folks, is a little bit of the hunting origin story of Chad Allen Jones. Like how did you get into this? Did you grow up in a hunting family? Have you always been interested in hunting? Like how did you get your start?
Yeah, I've when, you know, people say they're kind of born into it, I was born into it. You know, my whole family's always hunted. My grandpa, my dad, my uncles, everybody. And so, you know, my dad was dragging me around in public land of East Texas. I don't know if y'all
the war zones.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because back then, I mean, leases weren't really like a thing so much. And so it was just going to public land. And we hunted Davy Crockett National Forest a lot.
I've heard some stories.
A lot. And, you know, and so he started dragging me around when I was 4. I mean, when I was old enough to go, you know, he was taking me and my brother. And now at the time we weren't hunting. We were just going to camp and play in the fire and be annoying and help scare off deer for him, basically. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I can remember like it was yesterday, you know, he had like old pole climbers. You know what I'm talking about, like telephone pole climbers, like the
boot
things with the spikes. And you know, he would climb up in the top of a tree and sit up on a branch, like overlooking some of these big clear cut and pipelines. And he would have like a camouflage tarp that he would build up and wrap around at the base of the tree for me and my brother. And we would just sit in there like it's a tent and play with sticks and bugs. And I mean, I can vividly remember it like it was yesterday. And so, you know, to me, and then to watch him be successful on hunts and bring home, you know, deer, and it was just, it consumed me. Like I was like, man, I looked forward to every hunting trip, you know, and it was just like, and so that was just all I knew. It's like, that's what we did every weekend, you know, all through the fall. And so, and then going turkey hunting and dove hunting. And so it was kind of just year round, and bass fishing and whatever, and through the summer. And so it was just an outdoor lifestyle. I mean, but yeah, my dad introduced me to it, and it just stuck with me, you know. And so, we would still go hunt public land a lot. We'd hunt up at Stringtown, mm-hmm. you know, there outside of Atoka. Me and my dad, and sometimes my brother would go, but yeah, we hunted there for years and years just to get back to the public land hunting, you know, mm-hmm. even though we had deer leases, it was just something about, you know, y'all get it, you know, just something about the challenge of public land, of trying to figure it out on high pressure places. And, you know, it's, but yeah, that's how I got started. It was early for me.
Did you ever see your dad shoot one out of the tree, with his spikes, while you and your brother are under the tarp down there playing around? Like, did you ever actually shoot one while you were down at the base of the tree?
Yeah. So, I didn't see it because I was under the tarp.
You just heard the,
but the sound scared me to death, because you're obviously not expecting it. Cause it's not like he can be like, hey, I'm about to shoot, And so I just remember it going on just like a cannon. And, and I look at my brother and he's like, I think he got one. And so we're like kind of peeking out of the top of the tarp. And my dad's looking down. He's like, shh, and so we're like, what happened? Did he miss or what? And so he waits a little bit and then he climbs down and he's like, we're going to give it a little bit, and then he starts kind of telling me the process of like, hey, you want to give him a little bit of time, and so then we go through and track it and, I'm falling behind him and limbs are slapping me in the face, the old deal, nobody holds the limbs for you. And, getting up to the deer and it's like, oh, dude, this, and I'm 4. To me, I'm just mesmerized. But I was like, oh my God, it's the biggest deer ever. I don't remember. I mean, my dad still has the buck, or antlers. I mean, because we didn't even do mounts back then. It was just,
skull cap.
skull cap on a pedestal or something. But, oh, dude, it was the best, man. I mean, those times were the best. But so we went through that for years of hunting public land, mainly down at Crockett. And then it just, as we got older, because that was actually where I shot my first buck, which is, if you see under that javelina, there's 2 sets of horns, the little small crooked 7 like this, that was my first buck. Gotcha. I shot on Crockett. And, and so, but then it just got really, really dangerous. There was people coming and running dogs. There was people like driving, like doing like deer drives through the woods and, people shooting down the pipelines, not realizing we're down there. And my dad's like, we can't do this anymore.
How long into it did that change?
I was probably around 9 or 10, I guess. And, so we hunted there for, a few years, several years. And then at that point, my dad ended up buying some land in Pittsburgh, East Texas, outside of Sulphur Springs. And, so then we just hunted our own property then just because it was, it got kind of scary. People were road hunting. I mean, y'all know the drill. If you're from Oklahoma, you know the drill.
That's tradition. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That reminded me of we had Pat Lane on the podcast, and he said if you hunt public land in East Texas, he said there's guys that shoot at sound. He said they'll hear something in a direction, and they'll just shoot over there.
Yeah, it's no joke. Yeah, so my dad's like, I'm not putting my boys in this situation. So we ended up getting our own property, and we hunted that up until, I don't know, it was probably close to 20. Yeah. And then sold it. And like I said, we've been on leases in Oklahoma and all over. So.
Yeah. Have you seen a change in like how Texas like public lands are treated? I mean, obviously you talked about it a little bit, but I live in Georgetown. You obviously live up more towards Dallas, but it just seems like, you got 35 million people in Texas, and a lot of them like to hunt. There's a big outdoor recreation culture in Texas, but the access to public, whether it's, all the cool places around me are draw, right? And there's not places to go. I went to a 1,200 acre piece of public in December, and there was like 300 huntable acres on it, and there were 16 people there. And I was like, man, these deer don't have a chance.
I've seen that, and I think it's kind of all, puzzle pieced together, because especially when COVID hit and everybody under the sun wanted to start hunting,
getting outside,
start camping, because we used to camp a lot, and we could just go pick a campsite. Dude, when COVID hit, there was like a waiting list to get into campgrounds, like state parks and campgrounds. And so like everybody wanted to be outside. It was a lot of new hunters. People had never hunted before were finally coming in and like, hey, I want to learn to hunt, especially when we had the meat shortage and all that.
Grocery store issues.
And everybody's looking at us out there, cooking deer backstrap steaks. And they're like, man, where do you buy that? And we're just like, you don't buy it. I killed it. And so it intrigued a lot of people. Then just kind of bow hunting in general, just started just emerging like crazy with tack events and, just, I don't know, it just kind of all was the perfect storm that came together. And so then people were wanting to hunt, and they're like, We'll go to public land because everybody always says, hey, where can I hunt? I'll go to public land. Mm-hmm. So now the public land's getting tons more people than it ever used to have. Yeah. And, which is more pressure and makes it more difficult. And especially for new hunters that don't know how to navigate that or how to hunt in general, it's almost impossible. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't even know where to start unless there's somebody experienced that can help them. And, so then that segued to people going, well, I'm getting on a lease. I'm not dealing with this to show up at a public land spot and there's 15 people out there all trying to go to the same spot. And so now the prices of leases have gone through the roof. I mean, dude, it's unreal. I mean, just for Collin County, for instance, I mean, I had a buddy, well, y'all know Cable Smith.
Yeah,
I mean,
Lone Star Outdoor Show, right?
It was $5,000 for 25 acres.
What?
Yeah. I mean, and that's normal for Collin County, unless you know somebody or family or something that lets you hunt.
It better be a heck of a bedding area.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And, and so it's, the struggle's real, but just anywhere in Texas now. I mean, trying to, I remember being able to go get on a lease for, $800 in Tishomingo. We paid $800 for 3,000 acres.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 doctors came in and leased it out for $16,000. So they paid $8,000 a piece. And you're like, but it's a $2 county. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you could shoot unlimited deer, I could understand paying that kind of price tag. But it's gotten nutty. And so I don't know what the answer is. I'm pretty fortunate. I happen to just know the right people to where I actually only pay for 2 leases in Collin County. And they're not much just because I know them. But my Grayson County lease, it's pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. It's close to Hagerman, and that all just comes with a price tag because of the caliber of deer that is in the area. Right.
Yeah, it's I don't know. On one hand of it, it's good to get all these people into the sport, into bow hunting or just hunting in general. But also it feels like the more people you have, the state needs to make, that next step to try to open up more public land access to grow the sport. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It can't be a one-sided thing, or it becomes, I'm not saying anything bad about Texas, but it becomes Texas.
Right.
So,
yeah, I agree. When you get, like a perfect example, like, the hunting public, mm-hmm. Those guys travel all over and hunt public lands. Well, they brought so much light to that lifestyle that now a lot of people do it. A lot of people that never hunted public land before, like, hey, they're kind of showing me what to look for, what to do, how this works. And so it naturally just brings more and more people to the public hunting land. And I agree with you 100%. They can say, oh, we've got 30,000 acres over in East Texas that's public hunting land. Yeah, but when you've got 30,000 people wanting to hunt it, it's not real feasible, right. And so, it's just, and then the flip side to that, then you only have so many game wardens in the counties that can patrol it. So then it turns into a lot of poaching activity happening, to then people are getting frustrated. It's like the Corps of Engineers land around Lake Lavon, like right here, this lake that I'm on for Collin County. There are some giants that run on that property. And, people are always looking for leases that, butt up to the core land. Well, they're either can't find a lease because they don't know somebody, or the lease is crazy expensive. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to take their chances of parking somewhere on a public side and going in. I mean, there's a guy that got busted last year for saying he was duck hunting, took his shotgun in there, shot a buck, went to drag it out, took his picture with it with his bow. But what he didn't know is there's people like me that run cameras on core land, not so much just to see the bucks, but to make sure people aren't being stupid, especially that backs up to my property. And somebody got a trail cam picture of him
dragging
the buck out.
Did he shoot with a slug or like? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, dude, you wouldn't believe the amount of stories of people that are just stupid, you know. And it's like, but they want to shoot these caliber deer so bad that they're willing to risk it.
It's like a drug.
Yeah, it is.
I understand it.
And yeah, I get it. And and that's the whole thing is it's just ruining it for everybody, because then you have the guys that do it the right way that are trying to compete with people that don't want to do it the right way, and that's like this buck here. So I had a game warden that hunted the property next to me, and he told me that the weekend after I shot that buck, because the locals had seen him and knew where it was. He told me that somebody was spotlighting off the road down on the creek on the other side of my property where I hunted this. If they would have saw him, they would have shot it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have got away with it either.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, the amount of attention that it drew. People were trying to claim I posted because I didn't come forward saying, oh, look at what I shot. And so then when I didn't come forward saying it, because I still had 3 other lease mates that I'm trying to keep from just getting all this, people knew the general area where it was. And then you got people trying to lease it out from underneath you. And so we were trying to keep it quiet. And man, a picture leaked out and spread like wildfire. And it was just, the game warden's like, dude, you've got to post a picture of this deer. He's like, because not saying anything, everyone's assuming that you shot it illegally or trying to hide something. And so it was kind of a crazy ordeal. But
yeah, it is. I mean, it's tough because you have so much desire for outdoor recreation, and we have 300 million plus people in this country. Every single one of them should want to hunt. It's awesome. Like I totally. Now, can we have the land to sustain that? No, but I've seen people even recently, you have to do what's best for the resource, what's best for the animal at the end of the day. Like, I know people that have a turkey roost of 300 birds on their place, and I'm like, are you shooting a tom this year? And they say, no, we used to have 800.
Yeah.
And so that shows me there's half of them are gone, so I'm not going to shoot one this year. And it's like, man, it's these, I feel like a way we can make a dent in it is like these self-imposed, it's like, well, I could shoot $3, so I'm going to shoot $3. Like, maybe not.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't like you. I don't know what the exact answer is, but it's at the end of the day, it's a limited resource. So it's like, Texas has tried, right? Antler restrictions, different stuff like that, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, perfect example, that wall right there. I discussed that earlier. I mean, that buck could have been phenomenal in another year or two, but the year he grew back irregular like that and didn't have his 13-inch rule.
Yeah.
Didn't have the one unbranched antler rule, and somebody shot it. And just for people that don't know that's watching this, I didn't shoot it. And the reason it's in my house is I found the deadhead.
Yeah.
But the neighbor shot it and couldn't find it. And we found it, a year and a half later. And but we passed this deer so much. But that's my whole point is you get people that are just they're risking it, they're shooting it. I mean, especially in part of what's driving that too is especially Collin County, if you're paying all this money for a lease, they're going, I'm shooting something. And don't get me wrong, it's a cool deer. He just wasn't legal to shoot.
Right.
And I mean, I see it happen all the time. I mean, and you're just like, dude.
So you guys being from Texas, let's say you had just a magic wand and you could change something about the way Texas, either the laws or the amount of public land, what would you guys change that you think would help, Texas for the general public?
Honestly, I think the way that that's a tough one, because I see the places that do draw hunts like Hagerman. Well, then what happens? People get frustrated that they don't get drawn, or Lake Grapevine. They get frustrated that they don't get drawn. So they find a way to go in and hunt it because they know there's giants in there.
Yeah.
And they take that risk of doing it the wrong way. And which isn't fair for the people that do get drawn and do it the right way, but it happens every year. Every year there's somebody trespassing on there, shooting a buck they're not supposed to shoot, shooting it with a rifle in Bow County. I mean, every year I hear of something like this. And I'm not sure what the answer is, because you go, okay, well, do you do more draws for more, does Lake Lavon open up more draws? Well, it's a double-edged sword. If you open up a draw for Lake Lavon, you're in the same boat. The people that get drawn are like, heck yeah, man, I got an opportunity at some world-class deer. The people that don't get drawn are going, oh, I didn't get drawn, and I'm going to go anyway. Mm-hmm. The only thing I think it could help is it maybe helps against poaching by using other hunters as the eyes and ears. Because right now, no hunting's legal and pig hunting is banned during hunting season on Lake Lavon. Because of that reason, people were trying to say they were down there pig hunting, and in reality, deer hunting.
Yeah. So
they banned it during hunting season. Well, now, unless duck season opens, there's nobody down there to see someone other than cell cameras or something. Yeah. And so, personally, I think if you do draw hunts, it gives the opportunity for other people to put in draw. It helps them make money, and it gives you more eyes and ears on thousands and thousands of acres that right now is not managed or patrolled. And so it'll help a lot keep preventing poachers from coming in there, because there could be hunters sitting there, that they don't know.
Yeah.
And so, but in terms of the bulk of it, yeah, we really just need access to more public hunting land, but the more access you have and the more hunters that go, you kind of, it's a snowball effect. Same problem, just bigger.
I do like the idea of the draw hunts, like this idea of, limiting the amount of people to preserve an experience, right? Like it does mean something when you draw it on one of those hunts. Cause like I get to hunt a really awesome animal. Cause Lauren's asked me that, like we have some acreage in Central Texas that I go, you can pig hunt, but you can't deer hunt.
Right.
And she's like, well, why do you even go look for deer? And it's like, well, if I draw out, I know there's a good one in there because there's only 75 people or something on this big landscape. But one of the things I've wondered too, and I've just kind of been kicking around, is like, I wonder if there's a way with public land to, like, what if there was a self-imposed like public land acquisition fund that it's like, when they ask you to buy your license at the end, it's like, do you want to donate to get a sticker for Texas Parks and Wildlife or whatever, the veterans? What if there was a fund where it's like, you can donate an amount of money to a bucket that goes to acquiring more public land, and that's like, it's earmarked only for that. As a hunter in Texas, that's something I'd be interested in. As a hunter in Oklahoma, that's something I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I would too, and but I think you still fight the battle of, hunters that are for the conservation and for the future of hunting in the hunting community that's going, yeah, I don't mind pitching in $5 on my license or $10, whatever, that number may be. But then you have the other folks that come in that go, well, I don't want to pay for it, but I want to use it.
Right.
And you're going to deal with that. Yeah. Just like the people that
there's givers and takers.
Yeah. 100%. And you're always going to have that. And then you also have the drawback of people going, well, it's public hunting land, and if I'm going to put in money to help fund it, I want to be able to use it the way I want to use it, and then you got people abusing it, and it's just, it's tough, man. I don't know what the answer is for us, but it's becoming a lost culture and community,
Right.
Does Texas not have anything like Kansas does where, they have like the walk-in programs for landowners? I mean, I understand Texas, is kind of that culture of like the, leases and all that stuff, and along with every other state, but maybe for the people that don't want to go out and try to fill the lease every year, couldn't they do something with the government? Like maybe the government come up with a plan to, reduce taxes on like farming equipment or maybe fences, just get rid of the taxes, but in return you let this piece of property become walk-in access for public.
Yeah, I mean, there's 100 different ideas but I think, right now the way it's structured is they make so much money on leasing. Dude, there's people that pay ungodly amounts of money, especially like big corporate leases. I mean, there's people paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for, leasing large properties. And so there's so much money in that I think it's going to be a hard sell for them to go, hey, this owner, this developer, whoever can take this and lease it out to a big corporate company versus
get a tax break.
Yeah, get a tax break and because they're leasing it out for an amount that's paying for their taxes and then some. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's big money in it, and so it just makes it hard for the working class, that's going, dude, I just want to go hunt. I don't want to pay $10,000 plus feed and everything else to go hunt in a $1, $2 county. It's stupid. You know what I mean? And so, and a lot of people knock it, but that's what starts driving people to go hunt high fence ranches, because they're going, dude, I'm spending so much money on a lease that doesn't guarantee me to shoot anything on a free range, because you can't control your neighbors. You can't control who comes in on that lease by the guy that owns it, that's letting his son-in-law, his brother, whoever else, so you're kind of up against the rope of going, well, I'm going to sink all this money into something that's not guaranteed. I'd rather pay $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to go to a high fence and shoot a deer that I know I'm going to get the meat out of it, even though it's not the hunting experience of, weekends and, but sometimes people don't have the luxury of that much time. Maybe their kids play volleyball and they can't go hunt every weekend. I don't know. But, the struggle's real, and which is why you see such a huge population of high fence ranches. It's the world we live in. It's convenience. You know what I mean? It's like fast food. It's like Amazon Prime. It's like, you're paying your premium for somebody to bring something to you instead of you getting in your truck and driving there and taking the time to do it. It's just the world we live in. And so, I'm not sure what the answer is.
That's interesting. I never really considered that what you're saying, and it's like a uniquely Texas perspective, I feel like, is the privatization and the commercial aspect of deer leasing and the cost and like the demand, and that's a big side of it too, right? Huge demand, limited supply leads to people wanting to do things like high fence ranches. To set in an experience, because I got offered a lease and I think it was Llano, and they said, hey, you can shoot 1 buck, 1 doe. It's 1,300 acres. There's 30 other people on it. And I said, well, what's the biggest deer you killed last year? They said it was 108 inches. I said, $5,000. I can go on a premium hunt in Illinois, or I can go get a shot at a 150 plus inch buck. But I kind of that's the first time I've kind of seen it from that perspective. Is I could see why you would want to do that if you're spending $8,000, $10,000 on a lease, and it's like there's a dink and it's 12 inches wide. I don't even get to shoot a deer.
And because ultimately you're putting a price tag on the time and the experience. Because to me, there was nothing better than growing up, going to the deer lease, camping out, sitting around the campfire. All the hunters, come back and talk about what they saw or what they didn't see or whatever, and you're trying to come up with a strategy and a plan, or where you're going to sit tomorrow, or the window, to me that like, there was nothing that topped that. Like, I loved every aspect of it. And, it's kind of taken away, and it's just, it's a dying breed. I mean, the people aren't getting those experiences anymore. It was even weird for me to come get leases in Collin County where I'm not going to the deer lease for the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm coming loading my stuff, driving 15 minutes down the road, hunting, and then coming home, which, I mean, that it makes it nice, but inconvenient, but honestly, it's just, it's not for everybody, but I can see why so many people like the high fence atmosphere.
Yeah.
Most time you go to a nice lodge,
watch football,
full course meals, football, all the conveniences, Wi-Fi, everything from home, and a high success rate.
Yeah.
And that comes with a price tag. But to me, hunting public land in Stringtown, I can't tell you how many weekends I sat and stared at a fire, sat in a tree, didn't kill anything, but it was just being out there, unplugging from it all. Like that was what I enjoyed about it the most.
Yeah. Well, and everybody wants something a little bit different out of it. Like you can't hold everybody to the hardcore standard of that. And like, it's like me and fishing. I like to fish. And you know, I might pay to go on a guided bass fishing trip because I don't fish enough to know how to catch a 10-pound bass in Texas, right? Even though maybe there's one behind every log, there's not really, but I get that. Not everybody is hardcore. Like I want to go hunt and I can devote 30 days a year in the woods of scouting. I mean, the reality is the average person has a low income with 2 kids and they want to hunt. They don't have the time to devote 100%. To that. And so I don't know. I can't hold everybody to that standard and everybody wants something a little different out of it. Right. And so I get that too.
Yeah. Because, for me, I'm kind of mixed there somewhere in the middle, is I like going back to the memories of what I had growing up. Mm-hmm. I want that for my kids. Even if they don't like it, let them at least experience that.
Right.
And see
give them a chance to dislike
it.
And
see if they do, And, my oldest daughter, she loves hunting with me. Mm-hmm. And both my kids love camping, and so, so it's kind of one of those things to, I just want to at least allow them that opportunity, mm-hmm. That I had. If they don't like it, that's fine. I'm good with that. But, my daughter shooting her first buck and that adrenaline dump she had and all the emotions, and it took me back to my first buck. And I'm like, I know exactly what she's feeling right now. And it made me more emotional watching her experience that because I knew what that feeling was of just how proud she was that, she got her first buck. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like, man, money can't replace any of that. You can't replace that experience.
Yeah.
And so it's, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I agree. It's the world we live in. Convenience is everything. So I've hunted high fence places before, and, it's not really my cup of tea, but I could certainly see why people go, I'm going to go do that because I don't have enough time, to sit and scout and try to shoot this caliber deer that they can shoot at off of a nice ranch, nice lodge, all the accommodations. Yeah. I mean, I can't knock them for doing it, you know.
And to the hardcore guys, it's like to the guy that is willing to go hunt 30 days a year, spend that much time in the woods, what means the most to him is the experience, right? Like the finding one, the suffering, the not finding one, the getting pissed off, the lack of sleep, the finally shooting the deer. It means a ton to someone. But to someone else, that might not be what trips their trigger. They might just want to go shoot a deer. And so they don't care about that 90% of it. Right. And that's not for anybody else to tell, but I could see that. I've been on a couple high fence ranches just driving through and stuff, and it doesn't seem like my cup of tea. The only thing that I take problem with in that scenario is when they want to compare an apple and an orange, right?
Right.
Those two things, because I'm unbiased. Do what you want, but those aren't the same things, right? So.
We could debate this for a long time. So like I mentioned to you guys, I have a few high fence deer that's in there I've never posted. They're in there on my wall, but I don't post because what am I bragging about? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit and say, hey, look at this 300-inch deer that I shot. I'm awesome. Yeah. Because either some folks can't get that opportunity or they're like, that's stupid. I mean, what are you bragging about? And so I try not to even go down that realm of conversation.
Those are probably the biggest ones you have in this household, right? But that's probably not your favorite deer on the wall.
Dude, I mean, honestly, I would say my favorite, the top two, is my largest one, this one,
obviously,
and the smallest one, my first one. Mm-hmm. And probably a real close somewhere in between that is my daughter's first buck, which is in her room. In terms of my favorites because of the experience that came with them.
Oh yeah.
And so, when you go see he may be 50 inches, my first one, maybe 50.
Beats mine. Mine was like 10.
I mean, maybe
you get
50.
four
I don't know. He might not even be
okay.
50. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? It's the experience. But I agree with you 100%. It's different strokes for different folks. I mean, some people might say, I don't care about the antler size, or I don't even care about the experience. I just want to shoot a deer for the meat, or I don't care about the meat. I just want to shoot the biggest bone out on the ranch. I mean, because there's people that are addicted to shooting like 400 or 500 inch deer that like can't hold their head up, and it's just, I look at it and I'm kind of like, dude, like it doesn't even look real. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? But hey, if that's what makes them happy, then as long as they're out hunting, then, and I know that brings a whole nother conversation of, well, is it really hunting?
Yeah,
right.
And so, but I've been on a high fence ranch before that's been 10,000 acres and barely even saw a deer to shoot. You know what I mean? So it's,
You do hear that debate a lot, like even if they do have a high fence and it's, let's say it's 10,000 acres or, multiple tens of thousands of acres, it's like, is that really, is it really a high fence type of hunt or is it actually hunting?
Yeah. I mean, because they're in there, they can't leave, but there's some deer that have survived that place for years they've started getting savvy to like, hey, I know what this feeder means. I know what this blind means. And they become extremely elusive. And I would hear people say that they're like, man, I haven't seen that deer in 2 years, but they're on mega giant ranches.
Now, if you owned that ranch though, and you blew the opportunity, it's like, okay, he's in here somewhere. But for a person coming in only for, a couple days, maybe a week,
right?
It's like you're kind of on that time crunch, just like someone else would be on public. If I miss this opportunity, the chances of me getting on this particular buck again, slim to none.
100%. And, and the flip side to that is, high fence ranches, they make that money off of selling hunts, right? And so now they're in a time crunch to get them booked and shot out before they kill each other or break all their antlers off from fighting during the rut, that now this $20,000 deer isn't worth anything that nobody wants to shoot because he doesn't have any antlers left. Yeah. So it's kind of everybody has stake in the game on it. But, to me, I don't know. Like I kind of go back to just old school. I enjoy the experiences that I had, when I was little and growing up, and it just trying to just challenge myself into being a better hunter, more proficient hunter. Doesn't always mean like shooting a bigger one every year, but just trying to be successful in my mind of what success is in my mind every year. And, but I love the process from the scouting to the hanging tree stands and trying to pick. I love everything about that. Like, the shed hunting, trying to build a story and history with some of these deer. It kind of consumes my life. It's like, that's just what I want to do,
Yeah. I called hunting a sport one time, or I was talking to my wife, and we were talking about riding horses because there's people that set up their entire life for like where they can ride, if there's a show barn somewhere. And Lauren told me, she said, horses are a lifestyle. And I said, so is hunting.
Yeah,
hunting
100%.
is a lifestyle.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about something like, man, I want to go shed hunting this weekend, or man, I want to go shoot a deer this week. Like,
during season or summer, you're on your phone looking at trail camera pictures.
There's somebody watching a podcast with three goons right now, like us sitting on this couch because it's March and they want to listen to something about hunting.
Well, dude, I agree with you 100%. Yesterday, cell camera goes off, and there was a decent buck that I was familiar with seeing a lot, and and he's just kind of milling around eating. In my mind, I'm just waiting for his antlers to drop.
Yeah.
So now I can go look for them. The problem we have here is a lot of times, a few of them have dropped their antlers, but a lot of them start dropping from like now into like, early April. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem for us is you see how much rain we're getting and the warmer temperatures, and the grass starts growing up real high, and the cottonmouths are everywhere. And so I always get stuck of going, man, I want to go find these sheds from this giant that I saw this year or whatever, or been seeing. But then I'm stuck going, yeah, but I don't want to get snake bit trying to go find them, like looking for a needle in a haystack when the grass is this tall now. And, so that's the drawback we have down here compared to up north where the elk ball dropped and, everything's not all greened up like it is here. But,
yeah, I can walk all season and not find one. And then I see, I go up and shed hunt near some leases and buddy's got winter wheat fields. And I'm like, I see 8.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I haven't found one this year.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and that's the other thing too, is, you see people up north that have these ag fields. That is the food sources that these deer go to. So you go check the bedding, the in-between travel routes, and the food source, and you're going to find some. Here, there's so much green vegetation right now that these bucks could be anywhere.
It
and
is
they
really
could shed
green.
anywhere,
Yeah.
and so you don't know if they've dropped off in a creek when they went to cross the creek. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So they can be extremely tough to find here. It's funny, that one sitting on top of that whiskey barrel, I found it last year, and it was actually laying 20 yards from my stand underneath a licking branch that I had. So,
That's cool.
yeah, now I wish I would have had the video of him using it when it fell off, but my camera was dead. So, but, I'm normally never that lucky to just find one laying right underneath the mock scrape.
We usually have to step on them to find
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
I feel like that's a trained eye. We've got a guy that we hunt with, Jordan Schaffler. We call him the Shed King
Yeah.
because the dude could throw a baseball and hit a shed in a field of grass. Like he's
Yeah.
just a monster
Yeah.
at finding them. It's not one of my talents.
Yeah, it takes a keen eye to recognize them, but yeah, I love everything about it. I mean, it doesn't end in the fall for me. It's still, going and either predator hunting, after the season's over and trying to help the fawns and, trapping, working on getting areas ready for food plots, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just always something.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that because Laura and I used to have this conversation. She said, "When is deer season?" Because I'm trying to plan out our life. We have Christmases and Thanksgivings and places to go. And I said, deer season is October 1 to about November 15th when I get about sick of it. And the more we've been married almost 5 years, and she says deer season is all year. She says, you're trying to leave 2 weekends a month every month for the entire year. I'm like, she said, and now she's got me in February now when I got to make an excuse to leave. I'm like, hey, we got to go get our trail cameras. And she'll tell me about January. Are you going to go get your trail cameras next weekend? She's got it trained now.
Right.
She knows every little excuse that I'm going to throw at her to get out in the woods. But it's a lifestyle.
Well, and I do the same thing. Like, so if I go put a camera out on public land or something, I wait to do it until the season's over when I know everybody else has gone and picked theirs up that are out there, and I'll put mine out so I at least still have a couple month window that I can still see bucks that's in that area, and I'm not having to worry about somebody going in there and finding them or stealing them
That's a good point.
and the pressure, But then the drawback is I don't want to leave them all through the summer and. So then I got to go back and, end of April or somewhere, and now it's snake infested, mosquito infested, trying to go get these for deer that I may not even hunt or even have anything worth hunting, but it's just, I love it. I enjoy it because, part of killing bigger deers, you got to find them, and scout. I mean, you can get lucky and just go sit in a spot and one walk through, but I mean, a lot of times you kind of have to put the odds in your favor. You got to find where there's big deer, and
That's a good point. That's what we talk about quite a bit is, in order to kill a big deer, you have to hunt where the big deer actually are.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people, and my private piece, to be specific, I mean, there's good deer killed around that area, but the thing about it is if it isn't good for that specific property, I mean, you're going to have to move boats. That's probably why, I mean, you have 2 leases, you have a few leases. I mean, you have to hunt where the big deer actually are. Now, granted, that's kind of, it's whatever someone wants to take, obviously, is like their big deer, whatever they're wanting to try to chase after. So that could be a relative term, I guess. But I mean,
It's like what Johnny Stewart said the other day. He said, when you start hoping, you might as well go home. He
Yeah.
said, it's not hope. He said, I have to know that sucker exists. And
Right.
and we've done that many times and sitting there on public land. I'm like, I hope one walks by. I got
Yeah,
3 days left.
day
It's like,
4.
you might as well pack your crap up and start heading home if you're hoping.
I agree 100%, because like different bucks that I've shot have been off of different leases. Like I don't have just one lease that I go, this is the only lease I need because it produces every year.
Yeah.
Now I have some that do have good deer every year, but a different lease might have a bigger, more mature deer that year. And the following year might not, because maybe that was the one I shot and nothing has bigger or more mature has replaced him. Which is why I want multiple properties, because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, because I agree with you 100%. Like, some of them might be a good lease, but I also got a lot of hunters around me that may be shooting those deer. Like, so this year, one of the properties I've leased for a long time, one of the guys that just hunts a few hundred yards down from me, he shot one of the bucks. I had him all the time. I mean, all the time this summer. And he shot him opening weekend, which I didn't even go opening weekend because I didn't have any daylight pictures of him yet. So I'm like, there's no point for me to go sit and hope. Oh, I haven't seen him in daylight, but I'm going to go sit today because I hope he just happens to walk out. But he did. He was showing up because he was obviously closer to where he was betting. And he showed up and shot him opening morning. It was a 186.
Good God.
Yeah. And so, so you don't ever know what's going to happen. But I did know that deer was in the area. So that was one of the leases that I was real cautious about not overpressuring going into the season, which my whole deal was I'm not going to hunt. Even though I knew he was there and close by, I wasn't going to go hunt until I started getting daylight pictures of him. And just, that's the way it goes, is he got shot by a neighbor, and just like I've been that neighbor to other people before, and it's just part of it, and so then I just move on. I'm like, well, I'll go to my next lease that, has one that I would like to shoot. And so, and this year was different for me. I was on a different podcast for Fall Obsession, and they kind of asked me that, like, what my goal was. They're like, what do you do now? Like, what do you want to shoot now? And I said, honestly, I've put so much pressure on myself each year to shoot a big deer that I was like, I just want to go back to enjoying hunting. Like, I don't want to be consumed with finding a deer and be like, I've got to figure out a way to kill this deer, figure out a way to get this deer on my property, figure out a way to cut him off of wherever he's going. Because it can consume your life. I mean, when you get pictures of a mega giant, it consumes every thought, every decision you make, and so it was just becoming a lot of pressure for me. I'm like, I just want to go back to the way it used to be, where, it more turned into a hope situation where I'm like, hey, I hope he shows up today, but if not, I just want to go enjoy the experience, go see what I see. And so this year, I mean, the buck I shot, I don't know, certainly high 140s. I mean, wasn't
my biggest buck.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, he certainly wasn't the biggest one that I'd seen, but it was kind of one of those things to where he was an older deer. He was already getting in fights and getting broke up a little bit. And so it was kind of one of those things to where I'm like, if I get the opportunity, I'm going to take it, because I'm still happy with the deer, even though he wasn't mega giant. Because the problem is, there's been times that I would spend seasons trying to kill a mega giant and put in ungodly amount of hours, and it just never panned out. And then I'm going, well, now I go home empty-handed. I don't shoot anything, or I end up last resorting and shooting something I really didn't want to shoot, And so, so this past season, I was like, I'm not even gonna put myself in that situation. So that, like I say, when I was seeing that 180 come in all the time in Bachelor Group, I didn't even really think about, okay, what's my strategy to kill him? I was like, I'm not even going to think about it until I get a daylight picture, because at that point, it doesn't matter. I can't do anything while he's showing up at night. And so, and then and so he got taken out first weekend. So it eliminated that pressure. I'm not having to even think about, okay, how am I going to kill him? Where is he coming from? When's my best opportunity? What days can I hunt this side that he's coming from? And it was honestly kind of refreshing, to just take a lot of that pressure off of myself and just enjoy it, And so, of course, took my daughter. She's, I don't know, she's just got the luck of somebody I've never seen. Yeah. So this is her 4th year hunting. She has killed a buck the first sit all 4 years.
Man, sounds like Dad's putting in the
I
work.
know. Exactly. That's why I told her. But I kind of do the same thing. I don't take her until, we've got bucks that are showing up in daylight. I don't want to do the same thing and have her just sit there and be like, dude, this sucks. We haven't seen nothing. You know what I mean? And so I try to narrow that window down for her, but it's still hunting, and Collin County doesn't have a high population of deer. So I can't tell you how many times I've sat and not even seen a deer, sit all weekend, not even see a deer. So, you just try to not burn out the stands. You try to be very, very precision oriented when it comes to when I'm going to sit, where I'm going to sit. I've got to have a lot of reasons and variables that say this is the time that I need to go, because you can burn out a stand real quick, and those giants are like, see ya, not today.
Yeah, you said something interesting. And when you're talking about not putting all your eggs in one basket or resting on your laurels, I mean, obviously you're a guy who's had a ton of bow hunting success, and it just seems like the second that you commit yourself to one property or one spot, or heck, even one piece of public land, it's like, it seems like you put all your pressure on that one spot. Maybe you hunted in the wrong ways, and it creates like a boiling pot of water that eventually overflows and you mess it up. And I feel like when you're looking for these really big bucks, they don't discriminate. They don't know property lines. They don't know counties. They don't know any of that crap. So it's like you have to constantly be pursuing them and diversifying in where you can be. Because I've always heard from the people that shoot 200-inch bucks, especially a lot of the folks in the Midwest, it's like the hardest part's not killing a 200-inch, but it's finding one. Right?
100%.
Yeah, and that seems to be, that's a really fun part for us. We like looking for them.
Yeah, it's
haven't found them yet. But.
Yeah, looking for them.
So the place that I was telling you this year where I shot my buck, but I had the 186 2 years ago. Yeah, I guess it's 2 years ago. I had a 200-incher on that place that I was after, and to my knowledge, he never got shot. Never saw anything come out, but I haven't seen him back either. And so who knows? Could have died from fighting or anything, or just moved on somewhere. But I didn't have many pictures of him, and it's just, who knows how far he came from. And what's hard to not get caught up in is when you see that picture or get a video of him, to not go, this is the only place I'm hunting.
Oh yeah.
And I had that happen. So I showed some buddies of mine that I was actually on another lease with. I was like, look at this giant. And they're like, oh my God. They're like, why are you not hunting there? And I was like, well, the wind's not right for me to hunt that location. And they're like, I don't care. I mean, you can't kill them while you're sitting here. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to kill a deer like that if I am not being smart about it either. But never got another picture of him. So I could have done the same thing. I could have sat there and hunted every possible opportunity to hunt with the right wind direction, and never even got the opportunity again, because he may have been coming from 7 miles away and just on an excursion for the day. And, and so that's the buck I ended up killing on the other lease that same year. And so if I would have put all my eggs in one basket on that lease and that buck never showed up, then I wouldn't have shot that deer. And it would have been a season I just went empty-handed, not shooting anything, and so, it's, the struggle's real, because having multiple locations can have its own detriment, because then, your trail cameras go off at your other lease while you're sitting in the stand at this one going, I knew I should have went there today, and it'll kind of drive you crazy. But I agree with you. You don't want to overpressure one spot, because even though you do have a giant in that location, you may make him not killable really quick by overpressuring him.
Yeah. I feel like there's two sides to that, though, because, I mean, what you just explained perfectly, and then there's another side that, I don't have him on camera, or I haven't had it on camera, so he's just not there. Because the camera only tells this much of the story.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because there's been a lot of times that I haven't gotten, like, one of my hit lister bucks on camera, and then all of a sudden I just go there because – I get off work early, or the wind's just too right not to go, and I'll go out there. And I'm not saying go out there every single day, but you go out there and then you look 15 minutes till dark over to the left-hand side, not even on the same property 300 yards away, and you see him out there, and you're just like, oh, okay. So he is around.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. I can't tell you how many times that I've sat in my stand and same things happen. I've seen kind of a target buck or one that I'm familiar with. I'm like, man, this is awesome deer. And just skirts where I have cameras, or the main trails that I have cameras on, they're not using them. They pave their own way. And I'm going, I haven't had a trail camera picture of this deer in 3 weeks. And here he is standing right here. Yeah. How long has he just been skirting these cameras? And people can try to say this all they want to, and it may be just different for different areas, different hunting pressures, or different personalities for deer. But I've had so many bucks, especially more mature bucks, that have come in and seen my camera, and I have physically watched them go a different route around that camera from then on.
Really?
Yep. and people are like, oh, there's no way they saw the camera. I'm like, dude.
They make noises and stuff.
Yeah, you can hear them click, or they'll see the light, and I put them up higher, on the tree wider than the camera, 6-7 feet up, so it's not, line of sight for them. And I'll see them just watching. I actually posted a video not too long ago. Same deal. This buck's coming right down this trail, and he's looking at the camera, and he backs up, walks right around it. Yeah. And he never walked in front of that camera again. But I've had pictures of him on another camera going around the other side. That's wild. And it's you know what I'm saying? But I look at, people are going, well, they don't know it's a camera. They don't know whatever. A deer is just as smart as we are. That's their living room, right? They live in that spot. Mm-hmm. And so I say it the same way. If you set a cell phone in the middle of that floor, okay, or on the tree or on the counter, and you walk in and you see it, you're kind of like, that don't look right. Like something, and your survival is based off of those instincts of going, I probably shouldn't touch that. I shouldn't go around that. Mm-hmm. Deer are the exact same way. Yeah. A mature deer will think just like you would think if you're trying to survive in the woods of I always refer to it as the scary clown. They see people as like that scary clown. So a lot of times they see you in there, they ain't going back over there. You know what I mean? They'll find another route. They'll find another way, or come only at night when they can smell and, they feel safe. And it's just, but you'll also hunt places that aren't overpressured, or the deer aren't mature, and they don't care. You might scare that same deer off and you come right back 15 minutes later. So it depends. It just depends,
I get a lot of those 1 or 2 year olds, and most of the time 1 year olds, those little spiked, or we call them little Elliott bucks, have one horn and then like a broke off horn. And
that's the best kind.
Yeah, like exactly. You see them looking in your camera, and they get like this close from it, and you get all these good nose picks. And if a 1.5 or 2 year old buck can point that out, surely a 5 or 6 year old buck can point that out just as well, if not better.
But to a perfect example of that, same deal. Like those deer are coming up and smelling of the camera of like.
And I know I haven't been there to leave scent because it's a trail camera, has a solar panel and all that stuff, and the feeder's full. It's been full. All my scent has been completely out of there, and you still get those pictures.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And it's different personalities because, I've seen bigger deer that aren't bothered by the cameras, but I've seen some that are like, I'm out on that, and so it just different personalities. Some bucks like to, pair up in other groups, and some stay by themselves all year. It just, it just kind of, you never know.
So for the more like, I don't want to say bigger bucks, but usually that goes hand in hand with like maturity and rack size. Sometimes on a lot of your more mature bucks, have you seen them kind of want to stay off from, those other groups of deer, or are they like pretty social?
Early season, they're pretty social. Mm-hmm. I've seen some of these bigger bucks in bachelor groups with other deer. And then normally, once they start, rubbing the velvet off and starting to get where they start dispersing, normally your more dominant bucks are the ones that's the ones you want to try to find, is because when they disperse, you don't know how far away they're going to move from what that core area was when they were in bachelor groups. And so that's always the trick, is just because you have a giant on camera early season, he might be 4 miles away, when they disperse out of bachelor groups. And so you might be going, dude, I'm going to kill this deer. I got this giant showing up all summer. And then all of a sudden he disappears and you're like, oh man, where did he go? Or he could be, not as far away as you think he is. You're just not getting pictures of him on camera. And I've seen that happen a lot. You just, the pictures slow down because once season starts opening or people are going in, I always attribute this to Labor Day weekend. Everybody under the sun goes to their deer lease and starts cutting, shooting lanes and filling feeders and driving around in the 4-wheelers or tracking through the woods or putting out cameras or whatever. I always notice that as the turning point, because I run cameras all year round. And I always see that as the turning point, is I'll see bachelor groups of bucks coming in. They're comfortable, no pressure, no scent. And September for Labor Day weekend happens. All the neighbors are out doing their stuff. And it's like a light switch goes off. And it's like, I won't get any pictures. And, the bucks are still around. They're just now more cautious and not moving as much. And a lot of times it's still hot too. And, and so it's, they're like, man, I want to go in and find a spot to put a stand and, clear a trail so I know how to get back to it, or put your little, flashlight pins or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to find that spot because you don't want to walk in the dark, open in the morning, and never have been there. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that little bit of pressure doesn't take much. The does, the small bucks, the yearlings, they might see you, blow at you, run a little ways, and not a big deal, come right back. Those mature bucks see you walk into that where they haven't been disturbed all summer long, and he might be like, I ain't daylighting until I've gone through this a few nights in a row with no scent, no, making sure they're not here. Mm-hmm. And that's where those pictures will die off, is because they're going, I saw the scary clown today and I'm not going back over there for a while, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is crazy. You see it in the summer. It's like, it'll be 105 degrees, but in the evening, it's like a deer comes out at 4:00 and will feed the entire, there's no intrusion. There's no scent. Mm-hmm. There's no, obviously testosterone levels are rising at that point, but there's not a care in the world. And it's like, you see the intrusion starts to come back up. People want to get in the woods, and those deer are like, I remember this.
Yep.
I remember this game.
It's time.
Yeah, it's time. And it's like they're a different animal. That velvet comes off and they're a different animal.
They are. And especially mature bucks or mature does. Dude,
Which one's harder to kill?
The does can be as smart as any of them. I mean, y'all have been there, and you're just like, that's the one you're like, that's the one I'm shooting because she's pissing me off, but it's, the mature ones are just different animals. I mean, you said it best. They are just different animals to kill. They think differently. Their forgiveness is extremely minimal, to that pressure and intrusion. And it just makes them hard to kill. But that's what pays off when it does come together, or you do figure out a way to get it done, and a lot of times you have to rely on the ladies, when the bucks put their guard down just enough, that makes it happen, and it's,
I had a doe once that, I let her blow at me a few times, and then I decided I was about sick of it. And she came in, I counted one time, she came in 7 times in one hunt, coming back to this feeder, and she would blow the entire way in. She'd touch the corn and sprint off again. And I let her come in one time. I was like, all right, I'm shooting this sucker now. And she came up to the feeder and I laced her. And that was probably one of my favorite highlights of that season was getting her out of there. And I got to hunt in peace the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Some of those things, you hunt those historical spots, same stand location, same access, and just like a mature buck, it's like they're like, I know this. And those are the alarm bells. I love shooting those alarm bells.
Well, and it's and I'm sure y'all have seen this, but it's just like when a deer picks you out in the tree, you might as well move tree locations, because that deer is going to remember, unless you shoot her, but she's going to remember that. And she's either going to come in from the downwind side of that tree, or you'll always notice that she'll walk in and stop and look and try to catch you move. You know what I mean? And so if one ever picks you out in that tree, you might as well move and keep it a guessing game at that point, because those mature deer, and I've seen does do that every time. Deer will come in, she'll circle around, and she'll walk up to that tree and just sit and look. And you're like, how many times has she done that when I'm not here? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then sure enough, she'll get just where she'll get my downwind or something, start stomping. You're like, here we go again. And then it's ruined that hunt for everything, because you're going, you know, even though it might not be running off the younger deer that's there, because they're like, oh, you know, she's stomping again, she's blowing again, she's always blowing at something. Those bucks are going, I'm going to trust her instinct. You know, I mean, those bucks know it's a social herd. They know what other mature does or mature bucks are there. And, you know, so that might be that buck of a lifetime could be standing inside the woods or bedded down in there. And he hears that, where he may have gotten his feet and came early. Now he's going, I'm going to wait till nighttime.
Yeah, that reminded me of, we were double hunting. I think it was a couple of years ago, and you were sitting in the buddy or the little ladder stand, and I was in my saddle at your grandma's place, and we heard a couple steps, and you just heard, ah! And I was like, where is that? And all you could see was like two black beady eyes, like in the brush. Yeah. I mean, there was hundreds of trees in between us, and all you saw was just a nose and eyes going,
oh yeah.
Ah!
Yeah,
that's why I'm a stickler on moving, because I'm not kidding. When I hunt, I'm like this, and like if I hear something, I'm like, well, hopefully it walks in front of me, because I'm not turning my head.
Dude,
like, I'm scarred.
It's amazing how stealthy they are. You're going, how can you move through the woods that quietly? I mean, it's mind blowing, you know. But yeah, I love it. I love everything about it. But yeah, I mean, I saw you guys had dropped some pretty good ones this year. So
Christian, you mean?
Yeah.
Shoot, yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
It was a great season. Yeah, we got to go up to Canada in May. Shot a black bear. Me and Peyton did. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then, you know, those seasons that you have that you go in the woods and nothing can go right? Mm-hmm. That was the opposite of what happened this year. It was like, if I was going in the woods, something was dying.
Right.
And it wasn't even me. I was just going to the spots, and they were just walking in front of me. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing this. I got 4 bucks this year, which I wish I could have kept it going, but I got 3 in October, which was
I saw that. You know, and that's the best, because it's like, just when you kind of either get stagnant with hunting, or, you know, you're kind of going on a spell of not getting something, and then you have a year like that, to where it just kind of recharges everything, you know.
I'm due for one of those.
Yeah, well, and everybody is, and it'll happen at some point to where you're just like, dude, I need to go play the lottery, because like it's just all falling in line, man. There's nothing better than when those seasons come together.
Oh, it makes you grateful, because then you go into the next season, you're like, all right, if I shoot 1 or nothing, I'm not due for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because it part of you kind of goes, well, that's the way it was after I shot that one. I'm like, I pretty much used all my luck for at least a few years. You know what I'm saying? And so, but yeah, that's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Because I saw the video of using the decoy. Now, awesome. I've never done that. I've never done it. And the only reason I haven't done it is because, you know, I don't want to, it's just some part of me that says, I don't want to risk tipping off a buck that I'm after, because if he comes into that or senses something's not right, do I miss the opportunity? But on the flip side of that,
yeah,
I'm like, if it does work out in your favor, I mean, what a cool experience.
It goes one of two ways.
Yeah.
It's I love that.
Really good or really bad?
Really good or really bad. And it was low stakes. I was driving through, and I was going to hang out with Jake and head up to Oklahoma for Thanksgiving. And it was like, let's go try an evening hunt. I'm like, okay. He said, you want to try the decoy? I said, doesn't make a crap to me. Like, let's do it. Set it up. And then we were sitting there setting it up, and he was like, 1 horn or 2? And I was like, it kind of looks funnier with 1 horn. You should take one of them off. So he took it off and made it an Elliott. And I mean, I heard, and I was like, "There's no way." And I looked to my right, and I just see those beams, and I just see Mad Dog in the woods, and I was like, "Oh, this could work." He comes out to the edge, and he's just, I mean, ears pinned back, and he's whoosh, whoosh.
So you didn't grunt at all?
I didn't make a noise.
Yeah.
No, he starts hitting the scrape, and to me that was, hey, dude, last chance before I kick your
This
ass.
my
Like
spot.
I'm fixing
Yeah,
to
this
come
my
out
spot.
there. You
Yeah.
better like start walking away, and he's whoosh, whoosh, and you can see it in the video. Those ears go, whoosh, and he is just side eye walking the entire way, and he gets like 7 or 8 yards because we pulled the truck all the way up in there, and he hits that scent. And he's like, I could see him lock up, and I was
Right.
like, time's up.
Yeah, go time.
Yeah, it was awesome though.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, by doing an Elliott where he's feeling like he's inferior. So, he's the bully coming in and going, oh, yeah, I can take this dude.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have used both antlers, does he get hung up there going, ooh, yeah, I'm calling his bluff and he ain't moving? Does he just kind of work his way back off and you never get the opportunity? That's the kind of things that always come to my mind to where I'm like, I don't want the doe or I don't want the deer to have any inclination that I'm there, have ever been there. So that's why it's like the decoys always look so awesome. Mm-hmm. The grunting them in always look so cool. But I don't know. I just can't bring myself to do it. I've tried grunting a couple times, and I know a lot of it's a timing thing and how they interact. But normally the times I've done it, it ends up with a white flag flying. And I'm like, nah, I'm done with this.
Well, deer are individuals too. So you wonder like,
right,
if that buck, did he get his butt whooped by a one racker
Right.
one time? Did he get whooped by a tight racked 8? And he's like, not trying that again when he was a 2-year-old.
Right.
You just don't know. But I've never, until I started hunting the leases in less pressured places, I'd never really heard any vocalization or fighting or any of that stuff. So you hear people on public land playing the grunt flute.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, dude, first of all, I've hunted 20 years. I've never heard a deer do that.
Right,
And they're out there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, yeah, it's like, dude, that's so unrealistic.
Well, or sometimes it'll work. I mean, I've grunted in deer before, but they've been little bucks that I wasn't going to shoot. Mm-hmm. A little 4-point or something that just curiosity is like, hey, is somebody over here with a doe? And I'm like, I don't want to draw that attention for something I'm not going to shoot. But I've seen people grunt and giants have showed up. So, it makes you curious enough that you want to try it, but I haven't brought myself to do it.
Same way with the decoy though. I mean, because if that, in your instance, the very first deer that walked into that decoy was the buck you're wanting to shoot, what happens if, a little 4-corned or maybe a 2 or 3 doe come check out that decoy
and they start blowing. Yeah, that's what I think of. Is I'm going, my luck wouldn't be that the giant in the woods is the first one to show up. Mine would be the little 4-corn would be up and be like, well, I can take him and go and knock him down, and now it's laying all over the ground in pieces, and I'm like, well, now I got to get down. This could be the opportunity that he's walking up right when I'm getting down trying to put it back together. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I think about. So I just try to be as stealthy as possible. It's like I don't want them to hear me, see me, smell me, have anything out of place that would go, is this right or questionable? But it looked awesome. I was like, dude, I want to try it. It's just we just don't have a high enough deer population to where I feel like if I screw it up once, I can get redemption later. So I just haven't done it, but I want to try it. After watching it, I was like, dude, that looked awesome.
Well, Micah, I was hunting with, he also tried that decoy like a week later, and he set it up, and there was like a 140s non-typical that came in, and he did that same thing, and Micah drew on him and was like, Matt, and he wouldn't stop, and he sprints from about 5 yards away, hits that decoy. Horns go one way, head goes the other way, tail goes, legs come off. And he was like, he literally just disintegrated it. Yeah. And he said, hunt was over at that point. My decoy was in 5 pieces.
Oh, yeah. It's not like he's going to just stand there and be like, wow, I dominated him. You know what I mean? Get ready. Yeah, exactly. So, but no, that was awesome, man. That was cool.
Yeah, that was fun. So I'm curious, you talked about, kind of your bow hunting origins and going with your dad, shooting your first buck on public land. When did you get into the bow hunting side of it? Like, when did you start pulling around the ticket string?
So I guess about 13 is, I had a hand-me-down old school Matthews Black Max. I actually still have it. Mm-hmm. But I got that really, it was my brother's. My dad had it, then gave it to my brother, and my brother gave it to me, when I was 13. And so it was just, getting out in the yard and practicing with them really. And I didn't kill a deer until I hunted a lot with my bow. Success with my bow took quite some time. I guess I was probably 17. Yeah, I guess I was probably 17 for my first bow kill, which was that one I was showing y'all earlier, that 8-point from Oklahoma. And so it was quite a bit of a spell. Definitely a learning curve there, because I saw a lot of deer, but ran into a lot of issues of the whole movement thing of just trying to figure out
the learning process,
when to draw back, and when all those eyes are around you and you're just like, and then you're dealing with adrenaline because it's a first time, it's a lot of unknown experiences. So, it just, I messed up a whole lot before it ever all came together, and so yeah, I guess, I had a little bit of a spell in between there, but once I got the first bow kill, dude, it was
game over.
Yeah, it was game over. I was like, that is the most addicting thing, being that close quarters to a deer, it all coming together, being successful. I'm just like, man, there's not much that tops that adrenaline dump.
Yeah. It was funny you were saying the learning curve when you're first introduced into bow hunting, because I remember my first, I think, 5 attempts at shooting a deer. There weren't 10 yards. I was in my neighbor's old buddy stand back behind my mom's house, and I set out a big old corn pile at literally 10 yards because I didn't have a rangefinder. Right. I just had a 3-pin sight on my dad's old, seemed like 1970s PSE. And so I was like 10 yards right there. And every now and then you'd get those doe groups, of course, when one head goes down and they're only 10 yards, the next one goes up and they're just chewing and looking around. I think I missed my first 3 deer at 10 yards, and then on the 4th attempt, which they were doe, I hit one on the leg, and I thought that was game over. Like, I killed it.
Right.
And then after a pin drop of blood, I was like, oh, it ran off a tripod. So, no, I didn't get that one.
Well, and the funny part is because I agree with you 100%. It's such a new experience when you start bow hunting that you're, so much failure and trial and error of going, okay, when do I pull back? Because if you pull back too early, like, oh, I see a deer coming at 200 yards, right, and you pull back and you're like, all right, now what do I do? So there's just so much, because nothing can replace experience with bow hunting, and so like I say, I went from about 13 to killing that one when I was 17. So it was a lot of years of trying to kill one with my bow before it came together. And now I shot a lot of pigs. Tons and tons of pigs in that time frame, but yeah, there's a lot of nuances to bow hunting to make it come together. And the closer they are at 10 yards, you're going, well, hey, that's comfortable for me because I'm shaking and I don't want it to be at 30, 40 yards and all this. But now you got them so close to you that the eyesight situation is amplified, because now you're trying to pull back and you're so close they can most of the time the old aluminum arrows that I used to use. Yeah, you go pull it back and it's like off a Rambo, and it's so loud that now they're hearing it and they stick their head up and they bolt and they're gone. And you're like, oh, so close.
Run to 30 yards, like out of range, damn it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you don't have a rangefinder or you don't have a pin or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of trial and error, that come with it, but it's, but yeah, it was addicting. Once I shot my first buck, I was like, dude, it was hard for me to ever go back to rifle hunting, and I've done it some, like if I've hunted somewhere, it's like, kind of wide open plains or no trees or whatever, I'd still go do some hunting, but it's, but yeah, bow hunting has just kind of consumed my life at that point. Cause like I say, that adrenaline high just, it's something else.
It's the mystical flight of the arrow.
Dude, it's incredible. Everyone should be able to experience it, cause it is, it's like a drug, it's kind of like, when you kill your first deer with a bow, it kind of takes you back to the first deer you ever killed, of just that adrenaline and all that emotion of just like, dude, that was intense. They're so close. And, I'm like the greatest archer ever. I made this happen. You know, like there's just so much that comes together on it. It's just addicting. And then every time you're trying to have that experience again. I think they compare it to like, people that are on drugs or getting high. They keep doing it to try to get back to that.
Chasing that next high. And bow hunting's the exact same way. Is you're trying to get back to that, just consumed by just pure adrenaline dump of like, dude, that was awesome, and it's it's incredible. It's incredible, man. It's
funny you say that. I was talking to my uncle Justin because I shot my first deer on my grandparents' place, and I shot my first bow deer, like a little fawn on their place as well. And I remember for like 3 years after I hunted with a bow, Justin would get so pissed at me because I would go out there and I shot a fawn, and then the next one that came in, I'd shoot another doe fawn. Yeah. And he'd be like, dude, quit shooting fawns. I'm like, I keep convincing myself they're big, and it's with a bow. So I was like, I didn't care. I shot like 3 fawns. And then I had a buck come in one time, probably a little too dark, but I could see his antlers and they looked bigger than they were. And it was a little basket rack, and I shot him with my bow too. My uncle was like, dude, when are you going to quit doing this? I said, I can't quit shooting them with a bow. Right. Like if they walk by me, it feels wrong to let them go.
You just take the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It is, man. It's just, it's a different world, it's hard to explain because you think of what the adrenaline was like, your first deer shooting with a gun, but just everything's magnified. It's all in, the intensity of it is at an all-time high when they're so much closer. There's so much more intangible. You're more movement, the timing of when you draw back, the precision of hitting the vitals, because your arrow's not, your broadhead's not quite as destructive as a bullet can be in terms of the energy. And, there's just so many more things that could go wrong, to where when it comes together, you're like, dude, that's it. That's it.
I think one of the more like unique aspects of bow hunting compared to like rifle hunting is the ability someone needs to kind of read the room. And what I mean by that is, is the deer coming in hot, on a doe, where you have to like mat and stop it because you only have this certain time frame and only so many yards you feel comfortable shooting a deer versus, a rifle where, even if it gets out there 150 yards, you don't really care if it's, on a doe or whether it's just kind of moseying through or whether it's alert or not. I mean, you have a little bit more room for error there. But as for bow, I mean, just like I said, either throwing out the old man to stop it or if it's just kind of moseying through, I mean, you kind of have your time. And I just feel like that has to do with also what we were talking about earlier, the trial and error, because you're not going to know how to read the room and what to do in those situations except being in that scenario at the time.
Well, and every time it's different. You know what I'm saying? The deer herd might be different. The number of deer might be different. Where they come from might be different. How fast they come through might be different. So I explained to somebody it's like a roller coaster ride, but it's different every time you get on it.
It's a hamster wheel.
Yeah. And so, but because you're 100% right is being able to assess and judge all of the timing, what the deer are doing, whether they're alert, whether they're not, whether they're moving, whether you get them stopped, how many there are, what's watching you, what's standing behind you that you're not paying attention to, just so many things. And you're trying to do this in a split second. Mm-hmm. Your mind is racing through 100 things because now, you're trying to assess all that, figure out what that window of opportunity is the best time to do it. And now you still got a whole checklist of your shot process that's got to come in. And that includes, are they traveling to where now I've got to range them because now they're not at the range that I did or the range that I shot earlier and they're not standing next to that patch of grass anymore or whatever. And that happens so quick, you know what I mean? And which causes people to rush the shot.
Yeah.
And so it's that was like the year that I shot this one. He come in trotting head down after a doe, and I couldn't get him stopped. And I'm just like, man. And he didn't have a care in the world, never even paid any attention. And when I first drew back, he was about 22 yards, and I'm just like, man, and I can't get him to stop.
I would be panicking at that point.
Well, so I'd seen him 2 times in basically 4 weeks of hunting, or really, it would have been 2 weeks of hunting, but and I saw him 2 times on the hoof. Okay. The once was when I told you he kind of scanned over and was out of range. Second time comes in chasing a doe, and I couldn't get him stopped. And he was kind of quartering away. And so, like I say, he kind of got behind a tree. I drew back, and I'm thinking, okay, I know he's about 25 yards at this point. So if he stops, sending it. Well, he don't stop. He keeps going. I'm like, okay, he's about 30 yards. So slide up on my pin. He don't stop. So I see him going to this other tree, which I had ranged before. I already knew that it was at 40 yards. And so right before he gets to the tree, I'm like, man, and he don't stop. So I was like, screw it. So I aimed just a slight left because he was quartering away from right to left. So I aimed just a little up on his front shoulder. I let it go, and he's still moving, and it goes right behind the ribs and out the far side shoulder. Oh my. And I'm like, did I really just shoot this deer? But it's one of those things. It's a spur of the moment decisions you have to make. And in my mind, I'm going, I don't ever want to have to shoot a deer that's still trotting at 40 yards, but I'm going, I'll never see this deer again. I was like, you know what I'm saying? My window of opportunity, because we're at the tail end of the rut at this point, and I'm like, he's about to be locked down with this doe for a few days. Neighbors are all after him. Could hit by a car. Spotlighters after him. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it was kind of, dude, it's now or never. And so I'm like, we'll send it. And luckily, it flew true and went through the liver and far side lung and out the shoulder, and he ran probably 70 yards and fell over. And I was, but it happened so fast that adrenaline didn't hit until after the arrow flight. And so when I see the luminok go through the backside of the ribs, and I see it pass through, and it's laying on the ground, and he kind of dips down this ravine and cuts off. So I didn't see him fall, but that was when adrenaline hit. I'm like, what just happened? Because from the time that I saw him to the time that I shot was maybe, I don't know, 8 seconds.
You just knew that was 40 yards where it was,
so
or you'd already
luckily I had already ranged all the trees because I had to change direction. So I had to stand in this location, which was over the big rub where I had originally got the pictures from him. And he used to come in this little acorn flat all the time. And so, but the wind direction was bad for me for that day. So I actually took a ghost blind, those mirrored panels.
Oh, yeah, the mirror.
Yeah. And I was sitting up against a creek. So that way I knew no deer were going to come from behind me because it's, straight down drop off. And so the wind was to my face, and he come from, the direction chasing the doe, and she just happened to bring him right in front of me. But I just couldn't get him stopped. And it was kind of like, dude, it's now or never, because I'll probably never see this deer again. And so fortunately for me, it all worked out. But it could have been he changed direction. He could have been just a little farther out of range. Or I could have shot under him. I could have led too far. Could have shot him in the butt. Anything could have happened. It just I got lucky. I'd
rather be lucky than good any day.
Yeah. And so, but that's what made it so intensified is I'm like, because when he didn't stop the first time, that was like when panic was setting in of like, well, you're supposed to stop. Like, what are you doing? And he didn't have a care in the world.
Do you think that's better for, obviously a buck of this caliber, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but for other people, if I see a 140, I'm going to be in just as much panic, I'll be honest. Do you think that's better for a person to, everything to happen quick? Like you said, all in all, it was 8 seconds long, or do you think it's more more of a mind challenge to watch them for 5 minutes straight walking in.
That's a tough one because both of them are a mental train wreck. One is a mental train wreck because you're trying to process everything at such a high speed that, I mean, it's the definition of target panic. Mm-hmm. It's the true definition of target panic. Of
there's my target and I'm panicking.
There's my target. I'm panicking and I'm having to rush a shot that I'm not really prepared to take. You know what I mean? And so, but on the flip side of that, if he comes, you see him walk in from 100 yards away.
See, I think that's what would get me.
Just moseying in. Now the mental train wreck happens of going, now it's a timing thing. I'm having to read what he's doing. I'm having to make sure there's nothing else around me that's about to blow this deal out. And now it's just a long, drawn-out process of that adrenaline dump. You're trying to control emotions, control it to where you time everything just right. You know everything's got to go perfect. You got to draw back, at the perfect time, at the perfect yardage, without him seeing you, without him being alert. You know what I'm saying? Then your mind's telling you, well, is he going to stay on this path and come to here, or is he going to veer off out of range? So do I take the shot sooner where I know it's a little farther than I like, but because you don't know. I mean, it's a wild animal. You don't know. And unless it's a bait pile or something where you're going, okay, I know he's coming to here. He comes here every day kind of deal. If you're sitting in a tree over a trail, like the first opportunity at him, I was sitting over a trail, over a scrape that he made in a rub, and I'm going, he's about to walk into this at 20 yards, and I'm going to kill him today. First time sitting in this stand, it was a hang and hunt deal. And whatever reason, he was with no other deer. Whatever reason, he walks off the trail and goes up through the brush and stops out of range, and then turns around and goes back the way he came. And so those are the things that go through your mind of going, okay, well, in the perfect world, he would have stayed on the trail and checked his mock scrape, no attention to me, no clue that I'm there. I draw back when he's behind the tree and send it and game over. But none of that panned out. And luckily I got another opportunity at him a week later, but it could have been, dude, I'm that close to him and never saw him again. And that happens to people all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's where, even experience a lot of times can't dictate when is the right time, because you're trying to go off experience, but that experience is different every time. And it might be a different deer every time. And you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to do, which is what causes target panic. There's so much unknown that you're going, I need to shoot now. And then you tend to rush the shot, and then you miss, and you're going, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I just wait?
I had all the time in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's funny. You talking about like that situation is funny because when I shot this 8-point on public, and he has like a 9-inch eye guard.
I mean, your hands were a little wide, I think.
About like that ish.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, this buck comes over this hill, and he stops at like 52, and there's not a sound in the entire woods. And I click my rangefinder, and it goes click click. And he goes like that and just looks my direction, and I'm in a pine, so it's like I am exposed. I'm like, oh please no. I draw back on him, arrow wobbling, and I get him in the peep sight, and I swear to you, my pen didn't touch him one time. It was like this around him. I was like, that ain't gonna work. And I just put it down. He ended up walking. I got to see him for a while. I watched him. He ends up walking. I ranged the trees and he's like at 42. And I ended up shooting him, and he runs like 50 yards and falls over. But experience told me in that spot at 50, I was like, that's an awesome buck. This is public. I said, this is just not going to work. I'm just going to have to watch and see how this scenario plays out.
Right.
5 years ago, I would have said,
send it.
Yeah, just
hope for the best.
Give it a try. Maybe hit him in the butt, maybe spine him. But that's right. Experience the teacher. And like, the more I get experience, the more I'm like, not worth it. I don't want to wound that buck.
Right.
And I've done that. I've shot several bucks in a single season and wounded them. But yeah, experience is the best teacher. But she's cold-hearted.
It is. Because there's been times to where that exact same things happen. I'm like, experience told me I need to wait. let them get a little closer, a little bigger window of a shot, or quartering a little bit, more broadside or whatever. And I wait, and something random happens. One deer kind of just jerks, and they jerk, and for no reason at all, other than they're just finicky and high pressure. And I'm going, they don't smell me. Like, what's the deal? And it was just enough for him to kind of walk off. And once he turned, I'm going, dude, why didn't I just shoot? But then you're on the edge of going, man, you're varying whether you're making a truly ethical shot or not. Mm-hmm. But my mind's going, there's no reason for them to jump other than this deer's just stupid and jumpy. You know what I mean? And he's making them jumpy, but a lot of that's your time of year, and whether that, those bucks have been fighting and he's jumpy because there's a big buck walking up, or whether it's a doe that, has been chased all around and pressured. Now she's jumpy because this buck's coming over there to harass her. I mean, you just don't ever know what's going to happen, and so that's what, that's the struggle of it, is just trying to, but you can't predict any of that. All you can do is just go, man, there's the highs and the lowest lows in bow hunting, and you just have to take them with a grain of salt and move on.
You have to. I'm convinced some of those deer blow to hear themselves talk.
I'll
be walking in on public, and 1,000 yards away, 2 drainages away, no scent, not wind blowing that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, for what reason? And then you see how other deer react. Deer that aren't even blowing at you, your deer near you are reacting. They're like, huh, what's up with that? It's just, there's so many. When you really think about bow hunting and then you throw in self-filming on top of it, it's like, how do you ever kill one? Yeah. I don't know how you do. I'm convinced the Lord walks them in front of me.
Now, I will tell you this, and it's all about the land you hunt on and the pressure and how the deer adapt to that. But, and I'm not trying to make this sound like any other way, but Kansas was the easiest bucks I've ever killed.
Well, let's get into it. Why is that?
I mean, well, just because they were more predictable. So, like, dude, hunting Collin County, I don't know where the deer are coming from. I mean, there's trails, but, I don't have like these sprawling ag fields, soybean fields like we had in Kansas, where it looks like cattle trails leading to this thing. And I'm sitting off of one of those in the right wind, and it ain't a matter of whether I'm going to see a deer. It's a matter of how long the line of deer is that's coming out of this bedding into this soybean field. And so, so I'm sitting there, and literally 36 deer come down this trail, just one right after another. I'd never seen anything like it. I'm like, dude, I haven't seen 36 deer in 7 years of hunting in Collin County. And so, but it was just little pockets of trees. There's not, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a weird landscape. There's just little pockets of trees and creeks that they all live in. And then they come out to these ag fields, in the mornings or afternoons to feed. I mean, I would see deer bedded in fence rows. I mean, there's just no.
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's just no anything. And so, if you're somewhere between food and bedding, you're in the game. And it was just watching one right after another. And so it was all the does come out, and then some of the little smaller bucks, and then the more mature bucks come out. And I'm just like, dude, this is amazing. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. So I end up shooting that one the first year, and then that one last year, and the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is incredible when I can sit and actually see deer, and I know basically where they're going to come in from. And, but like Collin County, it's so unpredictable. I don't have these main trails that they use. I mean, I'll see deer just randomly walk through the thickest brush and around, you know what I'm saying? To where I'm going, well, dude, he's right there, and I don't have a shot because he's in all these briars and, but like I said, we also don't have the food sources like they have there either. I don't have 100 acres of, soybeans all the way around this thing, and so,
But if you use a corn pile, shame on you.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you use a trail camera in Kansas, shame on you too.
That's right. I forgot about that.
But I was just like, man, this is nice for deer to act like deer, like be somewhat predictable and huntable, and because I was talking to a buddy of mine that lived up there, it was his place I was hunting, and I was like, is this normal? Like, and he goes, yeah, those trails, I don't have cattle on this place. Like, those are deer trails. And I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm talking beat down to just pure mud.
Yeah.
It looked like a pig trail to me, like of just how many have gone through it. And dude, it was just one right after another.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember our first time to Kansas, the very first, it wasn't even a piece, it was just a weehaw. We were like, hey, let's go check it out. We sat there that evening. We seen 20 deer, I think, between us both.
Yeah.
And we're like, this, I mean, granted, none of them were big.
Right.
But, I think that's what keeps people eating tag soup if you go to Kansas is just your standards, I would say. Because everybody gets that Kansas mentality. They want that Kansas giant. And so they'll pass on these 120-inch bucks. And it's like, well, looking back, probably should have shot that. But, I mean, that's what caused at least me to get tag soup, and I'm not saying I'm some mighty hunter, but I mean, yeah, that was the reason.
Well, to your point, so the buddy's place I went and hunted was Cody Cutler. I don't know if y'all know him, but anyway,
I want to. He's got a place in Kansas, you said?
Yeah. So he's a real estate agent up there. He sold Jeff and Hannah Barron their property up in Kansas, and so and so I was hunting some of his property. And, dude, I mean, he's shot, the same property that I shot that one, he shot a 212-inch buck off of. So to your point, I'm seeing all these deer and going, but I know there's the Kansas giants out here. Mm-hmm. Do I wait on one? Well, those are the ones that are few and far between. They're there.
They're still a hidden gem.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
But it's not a dime a dozen like you think of, because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really big deer in Collin County, but they're not around every corner. You know what I mean? Yeah. And and so when that deer come out, I'm like, I'm no fool. I just drove 6.5 hours. No, yeah, I just drove 6.5 hours, and he was a nice buck. My first Kansas buck. I'm shooting him. You know what I mean? And could I have waited for a bigger one and maybe a bigger one comes out? Because he shot like a 182 like the weekend after I left. But but you know what I'm saying? That's always a gamble you have to take of, that's where it goes back to the whole thing of I just want to enjoy the hunt. Right. And I'm still happy with the deer instead of, putting the pressure on myself to be like, well, I guess I'll take 2 weeks of vacation. I'm going to sit here until I have a booner on the ground. You know what I mean? Because I certainly know they're there. He showed me all these trail camera pictures. He's like, yeah, this one's on this farm. This one's on this farm. And I'm like, do I wait on them? Do I take one I'm happy with? And so, for me, I was just like, I'm taking one I'm happy with, because I went and hunted for a week, and the wind, oh my God, dude, like I thought I was going to get blown out of the tree on a couple of the days. I mean, the wind was insane. And so, the deer were still moving, but I'm like, man, these big mature bucks probably ain't going to move much in this where they can't really hear what's going on and everything's moving around, just making them kind of spooky. And so, it's kind of the same thing. You kind of just assess the situation. And that's why I was like, man, when that one walked out, I was like, I'm sending it on this one.
Yeah. Non-residents can hate me next year because, again, I ate tag soup last year. So as a non-resident, that's a $550 ticket right there. Yeah. And that's not even including, gas and food, eating, and all that stuff up there. So it's like 50 inchers beware, especially if I'd put in next year and it's floating towards the end of the season because that's
I got my 50 incher.
Yeah.
That's an expensive.
It's funny. I posted, I got a dog because I shot this deer like 70 yards from private, and they obviously, non-resident, anyone shoots a buck on Facebook in Kansas, they're like, well, let's see the buck. And the tracker posts a picture, and he goes, somebody first comment's like, typical non-resident.
Sorry. But I agree with you 100%. You're going, well, dude, after what I just paid for a non-resident tag, something's done. I don't care what size it is, but Well, and I take that back. That wasn't last year. That was the year before. I didn't get drawn last year. And I actually had a lease with a buddy of mine, and then I had to forfeit the lease because I didn't get drawn, couldn't go.
You're probably blacklisted now after shooting 50.
I probably am. I'd do it again. I'm just kidding.
Now,
I mean,
y'all got drawn last year, right?
no,
You didn't?
No, it was 22 when we got drawn.
What unit were y'all hunting?
We hunted Southeast Kansas. Yeah, we were in the same ones.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought because we were talking about trying to do a public land hunt. I was in 11 and 12. I had 11 and 12 units. 11 and 12. I was up in Fort Scott, but yeah, I didn't get drawn this last year, and so of course it comes up next week, 2 weeks.
The
first
next week?
No, the first when it opens
gotcha.
for the draw. So don't forget. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, so we're still, Cody's still got some places, but we're still trying to find another lease up there so the buddy I hunted with, he hunted public land last year when we had to forfeit the lease. So he got drawn, I didn't, and he hunted public land last year, and he's like, dude, this sucks. He's like, I had people walking their dogs through the place. He's like, I had people all over, and he goes, and I didn't see a buck even worth shooting. He goes, I saw a lot of deer, just nothing.
Was he up there like periodically throughout the season, or was he just took 1 week in November?
No, he lives over in Arkansas, and so he was up there. I want to say he probably went 4 or 5 times.
Really?
Yeah.
Because what we noticed is when we went in September and like early October and stuff, there was hardly any people out, and even late season,
Place to yourself. It was awesome.
basically. And then as soon as November hit, war zone, and you had people were flashing you with headlamps, walking in the morning, and it's like my stuff's already hung from the previous day.
Right.
Like, sorry, but so you got to walk around them, and it's just a lot of people compared to early season and late season.
Yeah.
It made me think of the guy. I walked in on the guy. My buddy Peyton had saw 30 deer the day before. So I walked around this huge wheat field. And I mean, in that first week of November, second week of November, I was huffing and puffing. It was like 70, 80 degrees still. And I got into this like thick area that was thicker than I thought. And it was like daylight was coming up because it was the day daylight savings. It changed.
Oh, yeah.
So we were an hour late. And I got down there and I sat in the creek and I was like, and I was wheezing because I had 40 pounds in my back, and I just hear out of about 12 foot up in a tree, he goes, "You gonna sit right there?" And I was like, "Huh?" And I said, "Well, I'll move." I said, "You're already in there, I'll move." And he goes, "I think you should." That comment pissed me off. I was like, I was already gonna move. He goes, "I think you should," kind of like disparaging me a little bit more. But yeah,
Matter of fact, I'll sit up right here.
Yeah, I was like, actually, I'm gonna sit in this creek. This is public land. No, but I moved on. He was hunting with a completely wrong wind direction. I was like, your hunt's run. Doesn't matter anyways.
Well, I mean, and that's why, like I say, I enjoy hunting public land, but it seems like people have just gotten to that same mentality now. Where it used to be, you saw somebody coming, you just kind of flash your light, and they're like, "Sorry, man, move on." Now it's like people are offended. "Hey, man, this is my spot. I scouted this." Okay, bro. First of all, it's public land. It's not your spot. And I get it. You're going, "Man, I scouted this area. I found this buck in here." And you're kind of going, "That's my spot. That's my area."
Yeah.
But you don't know that they haven't done the exact same thing.
They could,
you know what I mean? And so now it becomes a first come, first serve. But dude, people like that's the part that drives me nuts is they want to claim their spot. And then if you're there and they're like, "Okay, well, I'll move." They go like 70 yards and set up over there, and you're like, well, now you're screwing it up for both of us. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's, I don't know. It's kind of shunned me away from public hunting a little bit. I did some up in Grayson County this year, and I kind of found a little bit of a loophole where I was able to get permission to enter through some private property on the backside. So I really never saw anybody, but the pressure was still there on the deer. And it was just like, dude, I mean, it's, I'm like, if I would have went early season, I probably would have had, pretty good odds.
Yeah.
But man, I didn't go until November, and there was already so much pressure from the Hagerman draws, and, cause it butts up to Hagerman and so many other public hunters in there that, man, the deer they were on high alert all the time.
That made me think of when we were hunting for that turkey and we had people walk
50
50 yards behind us. We heard some rustling. We're like, oh, it's probably pigs or something. So we let it go. And we've got this bird, and he I swear to you, he gobbled 100 times on the limb on public. He's bah, bah, and you can dang near see him. And like it breaks.
This place, there's like one way in, one way out.
Yeah, it breaks. You see a truck in the parking lot, it's the kind of type of place you turn around.
Right.
You're like, somebody's
Yeah,
here.
because you got to know someone.
Yeah. And so these people walk right behind us, and we're sitting there, this bird's gobbling, and
so they heard it and they were coming to it.
They came 50 yards behind us. They set up 50 yards in a tree behind us going,
Well, when we were waiting,
did they not see you? Did
100% they did. They just wanted to shoot the bird.
They had to have heard us call to that bird to spark him up. I'm not a big turkey hunter, so I don't know like all the terms and slang and stuff like that. But I remember we were sitting there, and all of a sudden I was like, I think I hear something walking behind us. But we were thinking it was a deer.
Right.
And we even said that audibly to each other. It's like, oh, probably a deer. And then it starts to break daylight, and that thing still hasn't like flown down yet, or maybe it flown down.
He stayed on the limb for a while.
Well, probably because he saw him sitting there.
They did, because Christian like goes to turn, and he's like, there's a hen back behind us, maybe 50 yards.
Decoy.
And he was like, that's a decoy. And then all of a sudden you see two goons tucked up into brush like 10 yards behind it, and you're just like, so that's why he hadn't pitched down yet.
So now neither of us are going to kill him.
Right.
So thanks.
Yeah, I know. That's the drawback, I mean, that's what forces people to start paying money to get on leases, is because you're like, dude, I'm tired of dealing with this. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the leases aren't much better. Every year, I deal with somebody trespassing. Mm-hmm. Every year. And it's like, hey, bro, I pay to hunt this spot.
Yeah.
So if you would like to access it, you're more than welcome to pay. But if not, then you probably should stay off of it. And I mean, I've had to get the game warden involved, people trespassing with rifles in Collin County. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's every year. Every year I've dealt with people stealing my stuff, stealing my cameras. It's like, man, it just...
Hey guys, I did want to mention that my friends over at Exodus just launched an awesome new SD camera, the Exodus 4K Lift Ultra. This is anything but a standard SD camera. It offers 4K video at 30 frames per second with audio. It has dual lens with dedicated nighttime and daytime image sensors. And one of the things that I think makes this camera really unique is it offers rechargeable 18650 batteries. The camera also has a 2-inch LCD screen, so you never have to worry if it's pointed in the right direction or your camera sitting looking at the right spot. The Lift series has been the cornerstone of Exodus since they launched it over 9 years ago, and this 4K Ultra is no different. Make sure to use code HA4K to save $50 off the new Lift 4K Ultra at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast and our friends over at Exodus, make sure to use code HA4K for $50 off the new Lift 4K Ultra at checkout at ExodusOutdoorGear.com. Now let's get back to the podcast.
At the Hunter's Advantage, we live by the KISS slogan.
You were not supposed to tell them that.
No, I meant we like to keep it simple, stupid. All jokes aside, Exodus is the definition of keeping it simple. Let's say you aren't really sure what arrow setup you should run. The Exodus Arrow Builder will help you build the right arrows for your exact setup.
Or if you don't have time to change those trail cam batteries in the dog days of summer, Exodus has a great selection of cell cameras and regular trail cameras. And if you pair them with one of their solar panels, you'll be set for a long while. I've shot over a dozen deer and a big old black bear in Saskatchewan with these arrows, and I trust them to fly right and get the job done. And they have something for everyone with the Exodus NIS micro diameter arrows or the Exodus MMTs.
So if you want to save money on Exodus arrows, cell cameras, or anything else they got on their website, make sure to check out ExodusOutdoorGear.com and use code HA10 for 10% off.
Once again, that's ExodusOutdoorGear.com, and make sure to use code HA10 for 10% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Well, you get one of those on one of those big leases, there's more pressure on some of those leases than there are public.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like, you get 1,000 acres with 10 people on it. It's like, 100 apiece. Okay, there's a likelihood 30-40% of that's unhuntable or where a cabin is or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. That's why, Stringtown was nice. I mean, like I say, I was able to go up there and not really many hunters, and the people that I did meet up there were real cool, locals up there that were like, because, y'all know how it is. You're hunting out of state, sometimes they don't,
the license plate.
Let's see the license plate. They don't like that. I mean, there'd be times that I'd be sleeping on the, in the campground, 2 a.m, some, Billy would be coming back from the bar and just laying on his horn, trying to wake us up. And
Seriously?
because they'd see those Texas license plates, and it's like, come on, dude. And but yeah, people are stupid.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. So you said you did end up shooting a buck this season though, on one of your leases.
Yeah, so I shot one in Collin County, and like I say, he was probably, I don't know, mid 140,
Just
somewhere
a
around
dink
there.
or something.
Yeah. And then I shot one in at the King Ranch. He was, I think, mid 150s. And then Grayson County, I mean, I had the opportunity, just passed on a bunch, kind of same deal. It was to enjoy the hunt kind of deal. And I'd done that on the first 2 bucks that I shot. And then, Grayson, I'm kind of like, man, I'm going to hold out and see if a giant comes off of Hagerman, and just nothing panned out. I mean, there's a lot of younger deer, which this next year should be really good, but I didn't want to just shoot one to shoot one. You know what I'm saying?
You're running out of wall space in here, aren't you?
So we'll see. I've been, monitoring the cameras of them. Most of them all still have their antlers. So I'm going to try to go up there maybe in about a month when they drop and find some sheds and maybe start building the story to, some of those deer. There's some pretty cool ones. There's one, he's like the biggest, like 6-point I've ever seen. He's just forked on this side. I mean, and just long tines. He almost got it. He walked in at like 16 yards one day, and it took a lot for me not to shoot him, other than the fact he was a little bit young. So I was like, man, he'll be awesome next year if he makes it. And so far, he made it through the season. So
There was a guy that around Bonita that shot one. It was a 7-point, but it scored 131 as a 6-point, and it almost netted. Jordy Jamerick almost shot it. It was a Pope and Young 6-point. And when he started showing me the pictures and was talking about it, I was like, that's my new goal. I want to shoot a Pope and Young 6-point.
Yeah.
That is a trophy right there.
Yeah. A buddy of mine at King Ranch, he shot a 6-point. I think I got a picture of it somewhere. I'll show you. Dude, he was like 140-inch 6-point.
170-inch frame.
Dude, he was huge. I was like, holy cow. I mean, it was a cool deer. I almost rather had shot him than the really wide one that I shot. I was like, dude, that deer is amazing. Because you don't see that very often, But yeah, it's but yeah, so like I said, I tagged out on a couple deer this year, and I put in for a draw for Grapevine. I didn't get drawn there. I didn't get drawn for Hagerman, and I didn't get drawn for Kansas. So all my draw hunts I didn't get drawn on, so I just hunted locally. Well, other than the King Ranch, but yeah. So,
is there anything you're looking forward to, like that you're putting in for? Is there anything Western that you want to do, or are you mainly focused on just whitetail?
Man, I've been on the fence of putting in with some guys with Fall Obsession to go up to Colorado and do some elk and mule deer hunting. The drawback for that for me is, I'm needing to take a couple weeks of vacation to go do that, and the flip side to that is I want to use my vacation time to put in the hours that I need to here or on the leases that I do have. Yeah. And so I always get stuck in the world of, well, do I want to go chase some elk and mule deer, or do I want to stick to my true passion of chasing whitetails during the rut, And so, I mean, I have a lot of want tos. I mean, I want to go back and do some bear hunting, my uncle's got a place in Mena, Arkansas. It's got some black bear up there. And so, I'll probably go try to do that some this year. And, I really want to go shoot a mountain lion.
Really?
Cool. Yeah.
With dogs?
Yeah.
With a bow?
Yeah. That'd be pretty dope.
I know a guy, Michael Ritchie of Steel Creek. This guy in Montana, we know he's like a 3rd-generation guide. And he said, when somebody shoots a cat with me, it's a reflection of my outfit. And he said, I don't want nobody shooting a puny cat. So like they shot multiple Boone and Crockett cats. And he's not a huge guy, but you see some of those dudes hold up those cats. They're 6 foot tall. Their tail is still 3 foot past them. They're 180, 190 pound cats.
Yeah,
that's a killing machine.
Yeah, and the thing is, I already look at it and go, okay, well, if I drop the money to go shoot a cat, obviously I'm going to want to do a life-size mount on it. Now I'm going to drop another $8,000 and you know what I'm saying? So, so I every year I just talk myself out of it, but yeah, it's I you know, part of me, I want to do something different, but you know, just, I don't get a whole lot of time in terms of between kids sports and stuff. And then of course, you know, once the general season opens for my daughter to hunt, you know, that was my goal this year was I was like, I'm going to let her get a deer down and then I'll start putting in
Yeah, but you
hours.
said the very first time you took her, she got one down. So that
So you wasted one hunt.
Yeah. Well, so I hunted one time in October this year. And so, you know, so it's gotten to where October, normally the week of Halloween, like around the October 23rd time frame is when the pre-rut starts around here. You know, the week of Halloween is normally always good. So that's normally when I'll start hunting. I can't tell you the last time I've hunted opening weekend. For one, because it's 95 degrees and mosquito infested, and it's got to be a really big deer for me to just go sit and get 8 alive, and a deer that's patternable. If I've seen him a couple pictures in a month, but there's no rhyme or reason, I'm not going and sitting there and taking a chance just to blow out every other deer in the area, you know. So but I don't know. We'll see. You know, I've never shot a mule deer. I do want to go do that, but I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know.
Time keeps ticking.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does. And it's like, I want to go do it, but I don't know. And I still haven't decided. I've still got to make a decision whether I'm going to go to Colorado and do some elk hunting or not. But, you know, like I say, 4 days of driving.
Dude, it is.
You know, and that's why I was like, I got to take 2 weeks because I want a week to hunt and then the other, you know, few days of driving. And it's just kind of like, I could fly, but I ain't planning to go empty handed, you know.
I'm not here for my health.
Right, exactly. So I was like, I got to drive so I can cooler it up and bring it back. So I don't know. We'll see. See how it goes, you know.
Yep. See where the next adventure takes you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Man, it's fun. Chasing stuff with a stick and string, there's nothing better. Doesn't matter what it is. Pig, deer, freaking blue jay, I don't care.
Yeah.
They're fun to shoot.
I know. And, dude, we still need to try to all go get on a hunt together sometime. It's like, you know, I was hoping we could have, you know, got together that first year, got drawn in Kansas, but that first year I only went one time. Mm-hmm. And that was when I shot that one, just because I'm like, dude, I can't be making this far of a haul,
right?
You know. And then I guess 2022 season is when I shot that one, and I went twice. I had a lease there, and I went twice. First time, my buddy shot a buck. It was actually the one we were kind of both after, and my first sit, he comes in on the upwind side of me, and I had a pile of does eating on this field edge right in front of me, and he looks over, and I was like, dude, this is gonna be first afternoon here. I'm about to kill this deer. Mm-hmm. He was a really good deer. And anyway, he kind of looks down there, he mills around up the top, and so I'm filming it, and so I'm sitting there recording him, and you know, he walks over to this rub that he had, this huge crate. I'm like, say, he had really good mass. And my buddy Tyler, he was sitting across the field edge on the other side, and this buck kind of mills around, and I see him just start walking down the tree edge. So I text him. I'm like, dude, this buck's walking right to you right now. But his wind was blowing towards the field, so I was like, you're gonna have to shoot him before he gets to your downwind side. And so I see him cross over the hill and start going down in that little ditch where he was. And about 5 minutes goes by, my phone goes off. He's like, I shot him. And I was like, dude, no way. And so we go, I help him retrieve him. Dude, it was an awesome buck. And that was the biggest one we had on the lease. And so then I'm like, well, I've got a lease and I've got a tag. And at the time, I didn't really have anything else on camera that I wanted to shoot. So I kind of just let my trail cameras do the work. And then I had a new buck show up, and then I was like, all right, put him on vacation. Next day, headed out, and set the first morning, saw him on the other side of the field. So Went in at midday. Didn't even hunt that next morning because I didn't want to blow them out because there's so many deer on those ag fields.
Yeah, there is.
So I didn't even go that next morning. Went in at midday, changed my blind setup, got it all brushed in on where I saw him come through. I was like, if he does the same thing twice coming down this travel corridor, then we'll be in the money. And sure enough, that afternoon he come through and I shot him. That was that one right there. And packed up my stuff and headed home.
Well, I do have a buddy near Fort Scott, Kansas that got a bunch of land so we can hunt. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, so I'm actually trying to find another lease right now. Cody's always an option, to kind of ping him to see if he's got some place I can hunt on his private land. But
what real estate brokerage does he work for?
Because
the only reason I asked is I have several. I do have a buddy.
I feel like it's called it's got trophy in there. I'll look it up.
Because our buddy Jake Ayers, they bought several small properties up there, and I feel like their real estate agent's name was Cody.
Oh, it probably was. I mean,
it's a small world up there.
He does Missouri and all of southeast Kansas.
I'm gonna ask him. Yeah, because they bought an 80 up there, a few 20-acre pieces. So
well, Jeff and Hannah just sold theirs. Theirs was 80 acres.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they just sold it. Good. It got to be the same way. I mean, they both shot some good deer off of that place. Because my lease was just down the road from them, and they sold it. It's so far. I mean, they're going from Alabama. Mm-hmm. That's a haul. You know, and so it turns into one. But they, and they had 80 acres. So at 80 acres, you get a landowner tag.
One tag, though, right?
To split between them two, and so the other had to get drawn. And so last year, Jeff. Or they didn't get Hannah didn't get drawn, so Jeff had a landowner tag, and so I think they kind of looked at it like, dude, this is a long ways to go, and we're banking on getting drawn. Probably invest your money somewhere else, but I don't know. But
just buy another 80.
Well, yeah, I mean,
just buy another 80. Yeah.
Well, and I think I'm sure they weren't opposed to doing that, other than the fact that, dude, I don't know how far that drive is, but
it's far.
It's far.
I can tell you that.
And but yeah, they had built a really cool cabin out there, but yeah, I knew it was for sale. I think it's already sold, but I'm not for sure. But yeah,
how did you meet them?
Through Cody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And so Cody got married this year, and I was supposed to go to his wedding, but had 100 other things going on with volleyball and all that. Hannah went. I think Jeff was trying to fall out of trees and hurt himself, and so
was that when he got
dude up? Man, that's scary. That was scary, bro. He broke his neck, and
I didn't know he
broke
did he
really?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said he was 20 foot up, 22 foot up, something like that, and the straps broke and fell head first. Yeah, it broke his neck, and it knocked him out, and he got up and walked 500 yards back to his truck with a broken neck. And anyway, and so yeah, he went to the hospital, and he's been in a like upper body brace thing for a while. I think he actually just got it off, but dude, he's lucky it didn't paralyze him. I mean, real lucky.
He's a tough fella.
Was it the same time? I mean, obviously I don't know him in person, but I've been following him for a while on Instagram, and that wasn't the same time where he was using those screw-in steps for trees, and
different time. Yeah, when it impaled him. Yeah, no, that was couple years ago, I think. Dude, I'm just like, bro,
be careful.
Get you a lifeline, But yeah, they've invested in the lifelines now. But yeah, it's a scary deal. I mean, you just never know. I mean, you see somebody hunts as much as he does, and how many times they go up and down those. And any accidents happen,
That is one thing I like about the saddle. Ever since switching to it, you're always connected. Now, granted, you could slip and get a little bit of bark rash or whatever on your face if you slip off your stick or your platform. But other than that, I mean, in my climber, I don't know how many times where I was stupid, wasn't even wearing a safety harness or anything, and I just kind of lean a little bit too far, and you kind of catch yourself.
Oh yeah.
And your top form kind of shifts and your bottom stays
Well,
the same?
or with hunting in Oklahoma and pine trees using those climbers, that same deal.
Gets
Is
slick.
you get comfortable and then you lean over and that whole platform shifts off those cables and it's like, this could be bad.
My little brother Luke, Mason and I have two little brothers, Mason and Luke were hunting, and they were only hunting like 60 yards apart. And Luke's bottom of his climber fell. It wasn't tied together. It fell all the way out from under him, and Mason had to climb up, grab it, and climb it back up.
Oh
to
yeah,
him. I've heard that story,
dude. I mean, it's a lot more common than you think. And it's just like for Jeff's deal, it wasn't even his stand. It was a friend of theirs stand, and he was checking it, and the straps hadn't been replaced and just old and broke. But, I mean, there's been people fall and get paralyzed, people die. I mean, it happens.
Tanner Woodward broke his neck too.
Yeah. It happens all the time. And, and you just don't think about it. You're like, dude, I've climbed this thing.
Never happened to me.
30 times. Yeah. Or whatever. And, but to his point, and he sent out a good message after, is it might not even be a rotten strap that's old. I mean, squirrels get up there and chew on those things all the time. And, they choose halfway through it. And now all your leverage is out on the end of that platform. I mean, anything can happen. And so, yeah, it's a scary deal, man. It's fortunate that, it didn't paralyze him. I mean, he's lucky, real lucky,
Yeah, that's for sure. Do you ever noodle any catfish or anything like that?
No, I was actually talking to them about going a while back, and it's like I want to go do it, but there's just something in my mind.
Common sense?
Well, there could be that. It's just something in my mind that says, like, my luck would be I would put my hand in that hole, and it would be an alligator snapping turtle or beaver or something. You know what I mean? Like,
It's my strong hand.
yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, because I see some of these snapping turtles that these guys are catching that are like 100 pounds, and I'm like, there would be nothing left of your fingers or hand if that big.
He'd probably get you up into like there. Yeah.
And so I don't know why that comes to my mind when I think of just like reaching in a dark hole.
Can they bite underwater?
I'm sure.
A snapping turtle?
Yeah.
Well, how do you think they catch fish? Because I hear people. That's
valid.
Hear me out. Hear me out. This brings me
I'm
to
from
the
Oklahoma,
This brings me to the scenario of people saying, "Well, I heard that snakes can't bite underwater."
See, maybe that's where I was going with it.
How do you think they bit the catfish that they're swimming across the water with? The catfish didn't jump out of the water and it bit it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
That's
a good point.
Yeah.
That's a great
I
point.
feel like an idiot now.
No. So I mean, to your point though, like not to get off on a tangent of snapping turtles, but they have their tongue is like a little worm, and they leave their mouth open underwater and wiggle their tongue for fish to come in, and then that's how they catch them.
Smart.
But long story short, just I have a mental block of going, I don't want to go underwater that I can't see in, people can't see me in, stick my hand in a hole that I don't know what's in there. I'm assuming it's a catfish, but I don't know that for sure.
True.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it's probably not a big deal, but I mean, you watch Jeff and Hannah come out of there. And of course, Hannah's so little that you're watching her pull these fish out that are bigger than she is. I mean, she's had her hands broken, fingers broken. I mean, these things aren't like a fish in the water is extremely powerful, and you're going, dude, that thing could drown. I mean, if you didn't have people around to pick you up, I mean, it could drown you.
Well, you know that show River Monsters?
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Wade.
He actually did a test on that, and granted, he tied like a 10, 15, 20, like in increments on how much weight it would take to actually pull down a healthy, adult. And granted, that's just dead weight. And he said that, I'm pretty sure he said that it would take only like 10 to 15 pounds of a fish swimming downward to basically outpower a human in water.
I believe that. I mean, think about you swimming in a swimming pool. How much weight would it take? Say you put a weighted vest on. How much would it take to kind of overpower you from being able to tread water? And
not much.
It wouldn't be much, especially like the more dense you are, or more muscle you have, the easier you're going to be to sink.
Yeah, that's my problem. All the
Walk on the bottom.
But yeah, no, I know it's crazy. I'm just kind of like, I was like, man, I'd love to go do it, but it's just something in my mind's like, there's something not right about.
We'll
that.
just go bowfish one of those Texas gator gar.
There you go. Yeah, because I mean, dude, if you ever meet Jeff and Hannah, I mean, their forearms, it's like just all scars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these fish, I mean, they have, just little like almost like sandpaper type teeth on there, and they start spinning. I mean, it just rips all the skin off, and you're just like, it looks really cool, but that doesn't sound like that much fun to me.
I like doing it when it's waist deep and below, like just 3 feet or below.
Where you can stand up.
Yes. Yeah, where your head's not under the water. I like doing it like that.
Yeah, I ain't trying to climb in a box or in a hole and get this thing out. For one, you don't know how big it is. It was like these guys over here in Lake Tawakoni just caught like the record or something. It was like 100 pounds or something crazy. Dude, do you realize how big 100-pound fish is?
That's a big one. Yeah.
I mean, it was massive. I mean, the head on that thing was like that wide.
Yeah, my buddy Hunter, we were noodling a couple of years ago, and he swam down and got about 9 feet down and got in a hole, and he got about a 15-pound blue grab him, and he swam up with the other hand, and he got it to the surface, and it started twisting and throwing his hand. And I was like, you swam 9 feet down for that? He's like, yeah, I got in there and he bit me and I grabbed him and pulled him. I was like, no, thank you. I don't like doing it like that.
No, I'm out.
I
don't know. I grew up, like I say, I spent most of my summers in Oklahoma, wading in Blue River, running trot lines, getting catawba worms and baiting all that stuff out. I mean, I looked back and thought I got to be the only kid on the planet that does weird stuff like that. But, and I could, like, my mind is I'm going, I don't want to go down off in a river, stick my hand in a hole. I don't know what's in there. I can't see in the water. It's not like the water's clear. No. I don't know, if there's trot lines in there and I go under and get snagged by one and I can't get out. And you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the kind of things that cross my mind to where I'm just like, oh man, I don't know. We'll
just get a few cervezas in you. You'll be all right.
Yeah. Or some
liquid courage.
Exactly. Yeah. Or some dynamite. Just drop it in there. But yeah, because I grew up, fishing the Ouachita River, and I just see how dangerous a river like that is, with that fast flowing water. And I don't know. I'm just something creepy about it.
I'm with you. You want to do close but no cigar? We got like 8%
So,
on that sucker left on that camera.
Do we?
Yeah.
All right. To wrap up the podcast, what we like to do is ask our guests, what's that one opportunity, whether that be a missed shot opportunity or a blown encounter, that still haunts you to this day? What's your close but no cigar? And I see you have a variety of animals, so it didn't have to be narrowed down to whitetail.
I would probably say this was probably, I don't know, 6 years ago maybe. There was a buck not far from where I shot this one, different property that I was leasing. And there was a buck, he's probably in the mid to low 190s and in a bow only county. And I see him walk in, following this doe at 70 yards. He's on the other side of this creek and it kind of funnels down. And I'm just like, please, for the love of God, come over here. And this deer, no lie, fed around in this field for 45 minutes, following this doe, just milling around. And all I could do was watch him. That's probably the missed opportunity, not in terms of missing by shooting at him, but just no opportunity that haunts me. Because, dude, this buck had points just a giant. And all I could do was sit and watch him. And at that point, I questioned whether I ever wanted to bow hunt again. Because I was like, this sucks. There was nothing I could do but just sit and watch him. And I'm like, dude, this out. Yeah, I'm like, this is a world-class deer standing here at 70 yards, and there's nothing I can do. I mean, everything's going through my mind of man, is there any way I can climb down the back of the tree, go out this creek, come up the other? You know what I'm saying? I'm going, what can I possibly do? Almost to the point where I'm going, can I call somebody that might be able to drive around the other side? You know what I mean? I'm like, this sucks. And he turns and walks off down the creek, and I never saw him again. That was a close but no cigar scenario for me. Yeah, it was. It was rough.
Horizon just a little bit.
You know, it crossed my mind. I'm like, I'm either gonna whiff it or make a really bad shot and then go, why did I do that?
Right.
You know, I mean, do I think I could hit him at 70 yards? Possibly, but the chances of him ducking, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm going, this is would not be a good decision.
Yeah.
But it was a struggle to just sit and like, dude, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do.
That's wild. Well, man, we appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Thanks for
it's good to finally catch up with you guys, and you know, of course, y'all's podcast is always awesome, and we definitely need to get on a hunt together. I know we keep saying that, and it's like, dude, we got to find the time to just get it done.
I'm down.
You know,
that'd be awesome. So for people that are watching the podcast that they want to keep up with you and everything you got going on, where's the best place for them to do that?
Well, so temporarily I have, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. All of them are Chad Allen Jones. I've got a YouTube. I don't really keep up with it all too much. It's the same thing, Chad Allen Jones. But yeah, it's, I'm sure my time is ticking on that one before, I keep getting all these, policy guideline notifications, for catching fish and stuff. So I'm sure it'll be short lived, but yeah. So there for now.
Well, they'll see you on your 11th account.
yeah, exactly.
And again, you got a beautiful home, awesome trophy room, like one of the best I've seen. So,
thanks, man.
Yeah, we appreciate you letting us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys as always. Yeah, we definitely need to go make it happen somewhere. Now, you guys have had some awesome success too. I've been watching y'all, so it's cool to see y'all's story unfold too, and of course, obviously, everything that you guys are building with the brand. It's cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.